Hey, Brandon, what's up?
Hey, Robbie, how's it going?
How are you doing?
I'm all right. Can't complain. How's your day?
It's great. It's great. It's been great. It's been a good day. A little frustrated at work at times today, but
Yeah.
briefly, just went outside, took a few deep breaths.
Count to 10, do a little dancey dance, get back into it.
Yeah. Just receiving tons of stuff every day. It's not necessarily my favorite thing to do. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Busy. Full day at work. Had to take care of few things, personal life. But other than that, this is the highlight of my day. Being here, talking with you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's very kind of you to say. So, everybody, this is Brandon from ComixKings. We're going to welcome him to the show. Station, Brandon.
Station.
Yeah, I'm glad to see you here. I met you over at Manny's channel. We've been involved, been over on your channel. We've been on plenty of those shows there. And now here you are on PCP.
Yeah.
Right? Big league, the show just called, and there's no crying in baseball, Brandon. So remember that. All right.
Oh,
so
you're killing me, Smalls.
Real quick, everybody, if you're not subbed up to ComixKings, there's the link in the description below. He's a member of the PCP Army Bad Batch. I believe he's one of the Backlog Bros. But we don't really talk about that. Brandon, thank you for being here. I'm excited to have a nice, fun chat with you. And welcome to the chat as well, Station. Some great people out there. Oh Brother Comics, Fable, TM Nerdy, Joram, Perry.
Oh, hi, Perry.
By the way, let me tell you something. I started getting all these random comments on some old-ass videos of mine. And Perry apparently spent the morning watching some old PCP videos.
I saw in his story. He's posted a whole bit about it.
Yeah, he made me revisit some of those videos, and I was thinner, and it made me kind of sad. Nah, but it's cool. Perry offered to edit vlogs if I wanted to bring him back. But I'll tell you what, it wasn't just editing that was a pain in the ass. It was also just being like, how to make this day seem interesting.
Right. It's the same whole day. It's like, oh yeah, let's get excited about a Monday. But also I feel like it cuts into your productivity in the workday, I guess. Downtime
could do that.
Yeah.
Downtime is important. But it's kind of it added some fun to those days. So I may take Perry up on that offer. And one day he's just gonna in his inbox get a shit ton of footage, and I'll be like, go with it, brother. Do you. Brandon, what got you into comic books?
What got me into comic books? I guess my mental health did. I think that's the first thing that comes to my mind. So when I was 4 or 5, I started getting into Star Wars. I started with the original trilogy as everyone. And then I actually got to see Revenge of the Sith. It was the first movie I saw in theaters. I was 5 at the time. That's kind of dating me. And then when I was in second grade, a show called Star Wars: The Clone Wars came on. And I was there for it, so I guess that kind of caught my gateway drug, especially because the last season got announced as I was turning 18, so it started and ended with my childhood. I kind of have peace with that. So I kind of see Star Wars as a unique thing, because the Clone Wars is kind of my era of Star Wars that I like to specialize in. While I love the originals, I love the prequels, I guess the Clone Wars is more nostalgic for me. And then comic books, I had a buddy. We actually used to do content over IGTV before we got started here. We called him the Kid, and he kind of backed away as we made the transition to YouTube, because he wanted to stay in IGTV. I wanted to come over here. And then he was doing other things, because he also was a music. He raps, so he likes to make music. He decided to do that, and he's been, we're still best friends to this day. No bad blood. But he didn't want to do it anymore, and I want to take it to another level. So he was one who got me into comic books. I read one Star Wars comic when I was in middle school. My grandma just bought it for me. I ended up getting it signed, but he took me to AwesomeCon 6 years ago, and I just went to the dollar bins and I picked up. The first comic I ever picked up was a MODOK #1 by Christopher Yost when he did that miniseries.
Okay.
And then I started just pulling characters that I liked, diving in the dollar bins, and then I started getting into continuity. The first DC book I ever read was Blackest Night, so that was fun. And I just started diving in head first.
So what year was that?
That was right when Rebirth started. So I was there because I remember the first pull that I really had. I think Deathstroke and Red Hood were at 22, 23. Batman was in its 30s at that point. So I went
52 era? Are we talking
no
about?
Rebirth.
Oh wow, okay.
So, but I caught up once I started reading. I went heavy. I was reading like Silver Age and Modern at the same time. And then once I started reading what I wanted from the Silver Age, I went to the Bronze Age, and then I went to the Copper. And then now in my reading level, I just finished Brian Michael Bendis' New Avengers. So I'm caught up in that era. I've been trying to go from 2000 to around 2013 now in my reading. I've read the New 52. I'm pretty well versed in that. Rebirth was like kind of my jam. Marvel, I'm still trying to get all of that. Like I've read Jason Aaron's Thor, but I'm just trying to get the 2000s to more of like the 2011, 2013 time period. And then I'll probably be able to hold a conversation with almost every generation of comics, which is something that I want to achieve.
So you're like a binge reader, right? You just like get into it. Do you just sit down and read like 20 comics in one sitting, or like how do you amass such a
I don't know. It was weird. Like I think the first binge that I could say was my first binge was Fantastic Four, was Stanley and Kirby's. To me, that was just very exciting. I think I read the first 20 issues at the same time, but it was like whenever I found time, I was bored in school.
I find it easy to go through certain things like in big chunks like that, but like Lee and Kirby Fantastic Four, it's kind of like one at a time for me.
I like it.
I mean, I love it. I love it, but it's like I was like, I just spent 20 minutes reading this one comic. Stanley put every damn word he could in there.
Oh yeah.
And I love it. I love it, and there's a lot of stuff packed in there. You know what I'm saying? It just they take a little bit longer to read. They're more of an investment. So. Right. But I can sit down and read like Ed Brubaker's Captain America. I could read all that run in like 2 nights, probably.
Yes, yeah. It took me when I started reading. I think because I was reading that with other things. Because I remember I was talking about it with Reggie because he was on a No Good Comic show and he was talking about he was reading that. I was like, oh, I'm reading it too because I just started. He's like, oh, I'm on issue 24 like 2 days later. I'm like, yo, that was a great run. He's like, I'm still on issue 24, and I'm like, nice.
Where were you accessing all these? Were you getting trade paperbacks? Were you going digital?
I read most of my stuff digital because when I kind of had I don't want to say I had a rough childhood. I had a more difficult childhood. It's like I had to work 2 jobs from the time I turned 14 to the time that when I was a senior in high school. I worked 3 jobs. So once I kind of had money, like around like 16, I was getting more hours. I started like buying comic books, but like I started reading digital. First and foremost until like I had enough saved up, and then I would go trade paperbacks. Now I'm reading a lot. I think it's 50-50, my digital and I always prefer the hardcovers, like the paperbacks, because the thing that I want to do, especially like with the channel that I want to have a library. Like my goal for this channel is I envision like 5 years down the road, I have a studio and I just have like a library. So like if anyone needs to reference something, because I have a pretty cool team that I built that are supporting me, right? The Bad Batch, Missing Link is a huge part of the brand now. Bryce Hillbilly Comics, who I see is a huge part, and then this. So, damn Perry, that's been a frequent, but yeah, that's Bryce right there. So I kind of want to have like a studio and like just a library for us to reference, you know. I think that'd be the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, like an archive.
Yeah. Like that's what we call our show, archives.
Yeah, that's totally, that makes a lot of sense. Look at that. Look, we got Just a Rican in here.
What's up, Rod?
Great, and reads so much and knowledge. Hell yeah. All right, well, what are some of your favorite comic book runs that you've read? Like what like if I came to you and I was like, yo, man, I just need to get into some comics. What would you say?
I would probably say, if I'm recommending you, like if you're like a new reader and I want to recommend you a comic book, I'll probably say Invincible would probably be up there. Ultimate Spider-Man, depending on like which character you want to get into. My favorite run is Frank Miller's Daredevil. To me, it's bar none. It had such a personal impact on me, right? Because when I was reading it, I was at a very low point, right? And I really connected with Matt Murdock. I taught karate, so I kind of had that martial arts. I was working at a law firm, and I'm colorblind. So like I related, and I was kind of depressed. So I related a lot heavily to Matt Murdock, very much. Chris Claremont's X-Men to me is unmatched. Marv Wolfman's Teen Titans, kind of those stories that just are timeless to me.
So I've never read Wolfman and Perez's Teen Titans. I have the first volume in trade, but when you buy a book, you think you buy the time to read it.
Yeah. And then it goes in the backlog. What's a backlog? I don't know. Like I'm looking at like 8 Omnibuy right now that I've bought in the past 2 months, and I'm just like, I don't have time to read any, guys. Well, then there's
Say Omnibuy.
Omnibuy. Isn't that like the plural of omnibus?
No,
Omnibuy?
omnibus is the plural of omnibus, but I also say omnibuy because it's just kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm like Omnibuy. I don't know. I call it Omnibuy.
It sounds better. I think it sounds better than omnibuses.
Right? It sounds more elegant, I would say.
Yeah, and be like, what'd you say about buses?
Right?
What you got against buses?
Right. I know one of my friends called it omnibuses, and that's my mind went somewhere else. But Omnibuy is a good word.
Perry, man. John Ken is omnibuy.
That's canon now, so
it's canon. So what runs? You said so the new Teen Titans and Claremont's X-Men and Miller's
Daredevil, Ultimate Spider-Man, Invincible Saga is one of my favorites. I wouldn't recommend it to people first getting into the hobby, but
that's really good because you got a wide range there. So if you got a kid that's coming up, you're not going to recommend Saga or Invincible to a 12-year-old, right?
No, I'm probably going to throw
Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimate Spider-Man. And do you mean the original?
The original.
Yeah.
The original. I love the Miles one too. Like the Miles one, don't get me wrong, is great.
I think Ultimate Spider-Man is Bendis' best superhero work.
Yeah, I would agree 100%.
Yeah.
Although if we're listing my favorite Bendis' work, I would say his New Avengers, just because I love what he did with how he built up his I love how he built up Secret Invasion.
There's one thing that I didn't like about, because like when Bendis made the announcement that he was going over to DC, I did a big reread and I went through all of New Avengers and Mighty Avengers and Avengers. I went through all of his Avengers stuff.
That's what I just finished.
Yeah, I went through all that again. I went through all the Miles stuff again. The Miles stuff was strong, though every story ends with him doing the Venom sting. It's like, just do that first, bro. Just do that first. That got old. His Avengers run, as it was coming out, was incredibly hot at first. And then it felt like it started going nowhere. But then we got wrapped up into these events, and the entire direction of Marvel was tied up into it, where we're talking about the post-Civil War era in particular, where he goes from Secret Invasion to Dark Reign, right?
And now we're going into Siege.
Right? Yeah, and that was a real big deal. Reading that stuff now, though, it makes the run feel disconnected because it's so tied into those events. They're almost like auxiliary to those events. And it was hard for me to pick up like one main purpose.
You can't
for
read
his
the
entire
book.
run.
You can't read the run without the events, and that's kind of why I did it like that. Like, because they're all leading up to something, which is, I think it was needed, because there really hasn't been a visionary that did that at Marvel at the time, other than what I would say what Jim Starlin did with Thanos. I would say I would compare that build up similar to that, and kind of the patience it took, which is very admirable, right? You don't find that anymore in comics, where you have a writer that builds these kind of stakes over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And no writer has the power to handle all those characters anymore.
I think it's also that it's very rare to have a long run nowadays in mainstream comics. Like everything is pretty much like Jeff Thorne talks about how he did 6 issues of GL. He didn't know if he was doing the next 6. You know, because that's how they work their contracts out, right? So nobody is like, it used to be like I was just watching right before we came on, I was watching was it Comics Cube? I think I'm not super familiar with the channel, but I saw it popped up in my feed, an interview with J.M. D. Mateus. And I was like, I've never seen an interview with him. So I want to check.
He's going to be on my show on December 4th.
Oh, dude, you're in for a treat, because this dude seems like super cool. I was like, I need to reach out to this guy. But the problem is, whatever, that's a topic for another day. I was going to say the problem is I can't keep a lot of his seminal work in print, like Craven's Last Hunt. Why is that hard? Why is that hard?
So bad. That's
they all are right now, man. They all are. They all are.
I would say DC's gotten worse at it because they've been adapting more, and they're trying to not reprint their paperbacks so they can sell the deluxes.
Yeah.
You're nickel and diamond in an industry that's just, no, like, I'm sorry, but like before Long Halloween had like news that it was like getting adapted, you could walk into a store and you could pick it up. You can pick up, like The Killing Joke. You can pick up Dark Knight Returns, Dark Knight Rises. You can pick up all these like seminal Batman stories. Now I go there and it's well, Scott Snyder's trade paperbacks that are discounted because of the Omnibus now, because they're trying to push that.
Yeah. Well, and it's such a whole thing there. I forgot totally what I was about to say. There was something you said that I was like, I had something to say about, and then as soon as I started talking, I lost it. So it was pretty fun. But the reason why I was talking about J.M. DeMatteis is the idea of like, back in those days, you had a run and the idea was that you're on this book until they tell you you're not, right? And nowadays it's hard to get a long run, right? And when they do these long runs now, it feels like to me like they don't quite understand how to do it, because so many people that are in the industry right now, say as editors, right? And editorial, right? So many of these people have been reading comics their lives, but they're like half my age, right? They're like more your age, right? And a lot of them don't have the background that you do as far as what you've read, how much you've read of the old school. A lot of these people have only read books of the last 20 years. And so they just kind of know this formula of telling the 6-issue trade paperback, story, and then telling the next one. And the way to like make a long run. Like if you look at Mark Waid's Captain America, if you look at Tom DeFalco and Paul Ryan's Fantastic Four, I'm going to throw that out there because it's one of my favorites. You look at that Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Fantastic Four. Look at that Frank Miller Daredevil, the Claremont X-Men. These were books that it's not that they necessarily had one long plan and we're going to take 75 to 100 issues to get to this one point, but they just knew that they were telling episodic long form storytelling.
Right. They knew they did like, okay, I have a start plan. I have an end plan. If I get to that end plan and want to keep going, I have that merit to myself. Today, it's like, well, I have a story. If it sells, I'll get another story and I got to come up with another pitch, And that was interesting when I was talking with Michael Conrad and Becky Cloonan, and they were telling me like their Wonder Woman arc was like 8-9 parts right to it. And they're like, yeah, we don't know if we're going to hit the next arc. If they let us, we'll know after they hear what we're doing with issue 3.
Yeah.
And then obviously got renewed because they're here to stay. But you don't get like Mark Waid's Flash anymore, even Geoff Johns' Flash, Geoff Johns' Teen Titans, and I think that does a lot of these teams a disservice because now writers or artists don't really get their voice on that.
Yeah.
What was special about Joshua Williamson's Flash run, right? It was
that's a perfect example of a modern long-term run that worked as because it was just telling stories. It's telling stories and buildings to something.
I think it was I'm going to say it was probably the most seminal Barry Allen story over than Geoff Johns because he really elevated Barry. And I'm not the biggest Barry Allen fan. I'm more of a Wally West guy, but I appreciate what he did with Barry and he made me care about him.
Yeah.
Right.
Joshua's story was the first time I really long-term really dug Barry Allen. Jeff had very little work on Barry. I like Francis.
Had more of a publisher design, like kind of like he kind of sat back a little bit, like I'm going to use him for an editorial decision. That's what Geoff Johns did with Barry.
Well, yeah, and it's the thing. It led right into Flashpoint, and then after Flashpoint, it went directly to Francis Manapul and Brian Buccellato.
Yeah. Buccellato.
Yeah. Okay. And that run is actually pretty cool. I really like that run, but
it had some cool concepts.
The original Geoff Johns Wally West run was amazing. The focus he put on those villains, you're seeing that. And I haven't watched any of season 2, but you see that definitely in season 1 of Stargirl. That's the influence that he brings. He can make it feel classic, but he makes the villains not so campy.
Right. Geoff Johns is a writer that I'm starting to pursue more. Mostly because when I first started getting into comics, there was an issue 1 on the shelf when I first started getting in. It was a Doomsday Clock. What's a Doomsday Clock? I don't know. But I didn't really pick it up. I didn't at all. And then it kept getting delayed. And my buddy was reading it. He's like, this is the most frustrating book. It was the same dude I was making content with a while back. And he was like, you couldn't remember it because it come out like a year apart, like 6 months apart. And then by the time he left the brand, the book finished. And I'm like, oh, I'm ready to talk about it with you, but you're not here. So that's just kind of where I see Doomsday Clock. And I know that Geoff Johns has done a lot better work. So I went back, I read it because I was reading Justice League at the time. I just bought the JSA Omnibus because I have no knowledge of Stargirl outside of the TV show that I haven't watched that I look at. I'm like, that's cool. but I know the premise of it, but it's a character that I want to dive into and have that knowledge.
Have you checked out the Stars and Stripes stuff?
And it's in the omnibus. So
oh, it is? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's dope.
If it wasn't at the bottom, I'd like pick it up, but it's like sitting underneath like Wolverine, Superman by Tomasi, Velvet, Absolute Carnage, Sweet Joe, like shit ton of stuff. But
no, I didn't know it had Stars and Stripes. That's really, really cool.
It like starts in like this run like the 90s. It kind of has like JSA in the 90s, and it kind of leads into the Geoff Johns because it was like kind of carried from it, I guess. But like I've read his Hawkman. I really want to dive into his Teen Titans.
His Teen Titans is solid. It's actually really good.
Yeah, I've like read bits and pieces that like I'm able to find the dollar, but I'm like, I just sit there nodding my head because it's one of my favorite franchises that gets zero appreciation. Look at today's comics, but
I met Geoff Johns in 2002. I got 2 books I think I have signed by him, and it's weird because he was doing Marvel work at the time, so he did a Morlocks miniseries.
Yeah,
and I have one of Morlocks signed by him, and I have a Hawkman #1 signed by him.
That's awesome. His Hawkman run was cool.
Yeah, I like his Hawkman run.
I like the Venditti better.
I loved what he did with Hawkman, with how, see, Geoff Johns was a fan, right?
Yes.
Like he wrote in the letters page this idea that Connor Kent was also imbued with Lex Luthor's DNA, right? Like that's in a comic book, his letter where he mentions this idea, right? And then years later, he gets to do Teen Titans, and he makes that he does that in his story.
Right.
So he has this great way of like revising things. Like Bendis tries to do this and other writers try to do this, but like he has a really great way of taking things and very quickly putting a new perspective on it to actually make, like, he makes
Superman Secret Origin, great example.
Okay.
I think that's a great example.
Well, Rebirth's a great example for Green Lantern.
Rebirth.
Right?
His whole Green Lantern run. I remember I was at Baltimore 2 years ago before the world ended, and we were stuck in whatever the pandemic is. You know, no disrespect to COVID or anything, but every single
we don't want to disrespect COVID.
You know, every single issue, 1 through 67 of that run was there for like $100, and I snagged it. It was like I was like the happiest kid ever with that. It was great. You know, and it's my favorite Green Lantern run, next to like Ron Mars and what he did with Kyle Rayner. But
I really like the Ron Mars run. And when I was reading that, I read Superman comics since I was a tiny kid. Like when I first started reading comics, Superman were some of the comics I was reading. It was the John Byrne stuff, right? And I read all that John Byrne stuff, or the Jerry Ordway, and then we got introduced into the Dan Jurgens stuff, and then Man of Steel started with Louis Simonson, I believe, and John Bogdanovich. And you know, I just love and eat that shit up, right? I absolutely like Carl Kiesel, and that was my jam. That I was reading other things too, but
that Superman was badass. It had like a kind of like a punk flavor to it that was never really spoken on.
Well, for me, it was a fresh start, right? So it was like felt like I was early in the story. It wasn't this character that didn't make much sense. Right. And like, it made sense to me, but then again, I didn't have any understanding. So it was like perfectly for me, like, just there we go. But when I got to the bit, and what were we even fucking talking about, Brandon? Because now I've lost myself.
We were talking about Superman, and
because
you were talking about Louis Simonson. That was a fresh start for you.
Yeah, but there was something before that. I was like, because I read Superman this long. So when this happened, I don't even remember what it was now.
We were talking about like how writers have like longer terms rather than just like short narratives.
We went too far on that one. I don't know. I forgot what we were talking about. Whatever. What do you want to talk about now?
What have you been enjoying lately? What have you been binging like outside of your weeklies?
Nothing. Honestly, because I haven't had the time. I've been binging horror movies. That's what I've been binging.
Oh yeah, blame Dylan.
I'll tell you that. Well, it's Horror Fest. I mean, I've always been a horror fan. In fact, when Perry was unearthing those early vlog videos I did in the early days of PCP, one of the nights we're doing the 80s horror podcast. So we're talking about the whole 80s horror vibe. So I've always been into horror, but yeah, I mean, around this time, we're just kicking it, man. Just watched Evil Dead the other night. Evil Dead 2 is what I'm going to be watching after this. I'm behind on modern movies, but that's usually what I do. It's because I revisit movies. Now, last night, you were on a show where we were talking about horror movies, and you mentioned that you're not necessarily the biggest horror movie guy, right? Which is fine. But you mentioned, by the way, Perry also, because of videos from 6 years ago, found out that Wes Craven had died. So I'm glad that we got to provide that service for you. What the fuck was I saying? See,
now you're talking about horrors, again. Like how I was on a show the other night.
Oh yeah, you mentioned Alien and you mentioned
Jaws.
Jaws. So what are some of your other favorites, bro?
Those are the only two I've seen.
Are you serious? You've seen other horror films, man.
I don't know what's another horror film that like I've seen. I don't know.
You've never seen a single Halloween movie.
Not to remember.
You've never seen a single Nightmare on Elm Street? Friday the 13th?
No.
Paranormal Activity? Saw?
No.
Okay. So literally Jaws and Alien is it.
That's why I said those are my two favorites.
Oh, okay.
And I said it last night too. I said they're the only two I've watched, but
I gotcha.
Well,
what movies do you like? What would you say your favorite movies are? Your top 3?
Wow. So it's weird because I've never really looked at what my favorite movies are. It's like if I see it in theater, it's like if I have a reason to see it. Like, yeah, but like, man, I used to work, like I said, I used to work so much. So I miss so much like kind of movie time, TV show time. Like to me, like there's only so many hours in the day. And if I don't have like through 2 hours, an hour and a half to really dive into a movie, like, if I were to say my favorite, like I love Disney movies. I would say like Disney, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Marvel movies, like the DC movies, like those are like kind of the movies that I give my time more to because I kind of see them more as a priority. Because I don't have a whole lot of time, you know. But I would say like I love Disney movies. I guess I love The Greatest Showman. It's not really Disney, but it's one of my favorites.
What's your favorite Disney movie?
I love Aladdin, man. Aladdin's my favorite.
Bruh, are you serious? Come on,
Aladdin.
Are we best friends now? Are we best friends now? Are you serious?
Yeah.
What do you think about the live action remake by Guy Ritchie?
I think the live action.
We're not friends anymore because I love that movie, man.
Okay, it was fine. Like I like the big scenes. I like the scenes that they needed to hit. They needed to hit A Friend Like Me. They needed to hit A Whole New World.
And they made Jasmine like
so high.
Figure.
Yeah, they made her a key figure.
Bro, whenever I need to be inspired, Brandon, whenever anybody out there, Brandon and anybody out there, and me, Robbie, listen, okay? All right, write this down for me. Whenever you're feeling down, whenever you feel like the world's against you, just listen to Speechless from that damn film. Like, bro, I mean, and then the open, like when he's running through the alleyways and he's thieving, it's like bum bum dun 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 dun. And but Will Smith, what? He killed it. He killed it.
I know he killed
Imagine a land. It's a faraway place where the caravan camels roam.
And he did great. Will Smith did great. My issue is not with Will Smith or Jasmine. I think those were the two best. I could not stand the script for Aladdin. I couldn't. It was like everything he was trying to do. It was like so predictable. It just like I feel like they invested so much time into making Jasmine and Genie two huge characters. They missed so much of what makes Aladdin like as great as the animation. I'm not asking it to be like that. The cool spinoff at the end, cool, I liked it, but they were just parts of the movie where I just looked at it. I was like, what the fuck did he just say?
Man, I love it.
I mean, I think like Speechless is a huge cover up. Like if there's Speechless is out of that movie, like I'm not watching it 100%. But I think as far as the live action Disney movies go, Beauty and the Beast, hands down, not because of my bias that my wife Emma Watson's on it at all. But
at least it's not creepy when you say it, like most people I know when they say shit like that and they're like 40-year-olds.
Well, she's what? She's 32.
Yeah, she's older than you, bro. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, I will take it. I'll take her any day of the week.
She's a cougar to you, Brandon.
You know what? I'll take. And our babies will still be beautiful. No one to say it like that.
Actually, y'all would make some good-looking children. I guarantee that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm sure she's got her own priorities in life, bruh.
She just hasn't met the right thing yet.
Maybe you haven't met the right person yet.
Touche.
There you go. What are you drinking there? Is that Arizona tea?
No, it's a Bang. It's a Bang.
It's a Bang. Nice.
It's funny.
What flavor is that?
It's a candy apple crisp. There's a story to how I got into Bang. So I used to have a. Well,
I'm
I
not
still
interested
have it.
in it, Brandon. So
Okay.
let's just keep it on comics. I'm just kidding, man. Go ahead.
Well,
that was a joke.
During football season last year, I made a TikTok account for the Steelers, and it hit like 20,000. I just took a break over the off season, so like 5,000 people unfollowed me. But Bang would like send me stuff every once in a while, to promote it. So like that's how I got into Bang.
So you're a Steelers energy drink influencer because of TikTok. Can you answer a question from my homie Brooks? What's a TikTok?
What's a TikTok? I don't know. It's like a place where you kind of do dances and shit. I don't know. It is so weird because I never really thought about it. I was like, I don't know. I hate it. I hate it though. It made money, but I just didn't like doing it. So I took a break. It just got, I don't say it got boring, but it's like the community there is so toxic.
Where, TikTok?
Football, like even like football, TikTok, it is the most toxic community.
Have you been on Twitter?
I stay away from Twitter just for that reason.
Twitter's fine. It's just sometimes I'll like go down these rabbit holes on Twitter just to be like, what the fuck are people? What is the overreaction to this week's comic book news?
Right?
Slots, you're in the PCP Army just by being here. If you want to make it official, you can join us over at the Facebook group, PCP Army. Link in the description.
Group. Yeah. I just see everyone else repost whatever I need to get off Twitter. Like Mars, Jen's co-host, will always just repost stuff on Twitter. Like she's on Twitter. I'm just like, okay, cool. I'm not missing anything now.
I mean, I'm on Twitter. Who cares? I mean,
right.
Mostly for the most part, I follow the friends of the show and other creators I follow and respect and friends. And so my Twitter feed for the most part is good. Like when I have to sometimes I'll be like, why are we outraged about this? And I'll have that's what keeps me up to date on that. And, but Twitter, yeah, I don't stay invested in that. In fact, the one social media platform, I guess outside of YouTube, that I'm most invested in is probably Facebook, just because I'm a little bit older. Right. And Facebook was like new when I was younger. And, it's just like, there's so many people older than me and just slightly younger than me that Facebook is that one point. But I just I'll be honest, I don't use social media for nothing but staying in touch with the PCP Army and my friends and family for the most part. I stay in touch with my family more through Facebook than my phone. Like, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, Facebook, I had one. I used to have one for the karate job that I had because that's how I would talk to parents, and then my family. But it's like, I don't know. Facebook is like just so my family can look at me and just make sure that my timeline is still on track. Like I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm still living under a roof. I still have a job. So it keeps them quiet for a very long time. But, I'm usually over on Instagram. I'm spending more time on my ComixKings Instagram than I am on my personal,
JT's very active in Pornhub.
Your poor wife.
Maybe she's into it, man.
I don't know.
We're sex positive here, Brandon. Come on. Let's do this.
I don't know. Is it Horrorfest for JT on Pornhub?
All right. But anyway, I like the Aladdin remake. I like the Aladdin movie. That's one of my favorites. I also love Robin Hood, and I love the Aristocats. The Aristocats is one of my favorites.
It's a cute one.
It's cute and slightly racist at times, which is par for the course when it comes to Disney, pre-19 something, whatever.
Yeah.
But I like some of the older school ones too, man. I think like Sleeping Beauty, Fantasia, the original Fantasia. Yeah. Scene with like Chernagog or whatever the hell his name is, like, bruh, still gets me. The Balder Mountain or whatever.
Jungle Book is still a good one.
Jungle Book is fine too. Yeah, I really like the Jungle Book. See, I don't like any of the live action remakes except for Aladdin. It's the only one. I'm just.
Beast.
What?
You didn't like Beauty and the Beast?
I'll be honest with you, man. I haven't watched it.
Ooh.
You know why I haven't watched it? Because I didn't like Jungle Book. I didn't like Maleficent. And there was another one I watched. What was it? Lion King.
Probably like, Lion King was bad.
Fucking Lion King.
My dogs loved it though. My dog was like looking at the screen. He was like tilting his head like every which way.
They ripped the heart out of that movie, bro.
They did. It was so
my God,
atrocious. But
Jesus.
I would say Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin. I would rewatch. Other than that, the other ones just they don't even make the backlog. They don't even make the backlog at all.
Oh, brother, I love The Rescuers.
The Rescuers is good.
Don't forget about the Rescuers Down Under.
Yes,
That was a good one too. I still have some. I have some of the. I don't know if they're McDonald's. I think they were McDonald's toys. I still have some of them, the little slideshows or whatnot. So
really,
yeah.
I never really held on to my Happy Meal toys when I was a kid. I guess
I didn't hold on to them. I just rebought them as an adult. So don't worry. One day when you're hitting your late 30s, early 40s, you're gonna start buying stuff that you already owned when you were younger. Probably. Just wait.
Probably.
Just wait for it. Just wait for it.
Yeah, probably. I used to own a lot of action figures when I was a kid, but I barely have them now. Like
what action figures were you into?
I was into Star Wars, all things Star Wars,
Okay.
all things Star Wars. But recently, like, I have this Nightwing and the Batman Who Laughs that were both gifts. Other than like the Spawn figure that I have back here, that was from the original line, and then the Daredevil. Other than that, I don't really have many toys that I go out and buy just because like they're expensive, and I want to.
Good for you.
I keep the comics, but I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be like.
Good for you,
playing with
man.
action figures.
Manny, don't even fuck with me. Oh yeah, they are doing those 50th where they're like, oh yeah, I
Hashtag blame Manny. But
when do they come out, Manny? When do they come out? Is it November? Please tell me it at least coincides with the McRib return. Please.
Like I bought one Lego set, and then I was like, oh fuck it, I can't do this. I can't do this.
Being a Lego nerd is its own thing.
It's its own. Yeah. I want to do it. Like I have so many things that's like this would look so cool on display. Like if I had a mansion, I don't want to say like if I were Gem Mint and I had a mansion, right, where I can have like a fourth of my house be like statues, that would be like action figures and like a huge like Lego room and then a comic book library and then a recording studio. That's how I would build my nerd cave. But you know, I know that not everyone's that minded, but you gotta have money for that, though. You gotta have a lot of money for that.
Brother, out right now. Oh my God, there's so many of them.
And the show, get some Happy Meals, come back, crack it open.
Oh my God. Why? Why? I'm sorry, Brandon. You keep talking. I'm just looking at something.
Oh no. But yeah, I don't know.
God damn. Look at those.
As much as I want to get into like back into Legos, back into action figures, they're too expensive right now, you know, and there's too much of a crave that like for like actual collectors. And I always think about, well, there's always a kid that just wants to have fun with it, you know?
I don't even know what you were saying, but like honestly, those Happy Meal toys are amazing, Brandon. Those are freaking
cool. Are they cool? Yeah, leave them for the kids, Robbie.
Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna leave them alone.
Yeah.
But why don't they have a Halloween toy for October? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, email McDonald's and tell them.
I'll send them a strongly worded email.
And send the PCP army after them.
They'll send me some coupons for like free McDoubles or some shit. I've done this. I've been through this before.
Yeah.
I'm that guy that sends emails.
Send it.
I won't weird stretch at the actual restaurant or the store or whatever, but I send emails.
Send them.
And they just send me free shit, and I'm satisfied. Usually after that. Yeah.
What else you want to talk
Brandon,
about?
what did you have for breakfast this morning?
Whatever, I didn't.
Well, what was the first thing you ate today?
I had my
break your fast.
I had pizza.
What kind of pizza?
I had a pepperoni sausage mushroom. My dad owns a pizza restaurant, so
was it cold? Was it hot?
It was a hot pizza.
Okay.
It was a hot pizza. It was
your
good.
dad owns a pizza place.
Yeah.
The Pizza Pala, if you will.
Yes.
Up in Pittsburgh.
I'm actually living in Maryland. So
you're in Maryland. Okay. You're from Pittsburgh?
From Pittsburgh. Like my family's from Pittsburgh. Like so my parents have two houses. They have a house.
It'd been better if I could have said it's a Pittsburgh pizza parlor.
Yes, but my dad used to work in a Pittsburgh pizza parlor.
Nice.
So you can still say it. So my family has two houses. They have one in Seven Springs, which is a ski resort. It's an hour from Pittsburgh. And then we have one here, just because like I have to work and everything. My mom's supposed to work here. But my dad's mostly out in the house in PA. I try to go out there every once in a while. But it's kind of harder with work and everything. And with the show, because that's like a full-time job in and of itself. Especially when you're on Spine Takes like every Saturday. But
what's the point of your show?
The point of my show.
What's your passion? Like, what's like if someone's like, why should I subscribe to Comics Kings? What are you about? What do you bring?
I'm really just about reading comics and talking about them. That's really what I want to do. Is I want to build a community of people that can just go and talk about their books, come in and have a safe space, talk about any book you want. We review comics. We're not really gonna like tear them to shreds if we don't like it. We just want to create that environment where you're just coming here for the knowledge of the books. You're learning something, but you're having fun, and it's a very calm setting. That's what we like to establish in our weekly wrap-up show. Like I love getting compliments saying like, I just learned about 4 new characters, or I learned a lot from this show. It's like, I always love when people just ask like even unrelated comic book questions, like, what do you think's gonna happen in like Batman Beyond film or whatever is gonna happen, And then we have Crisis on Infinite Rants that Missing Link and I do for Whiplash Wednesday. It's where we just talk about a comic book conversation, kind of like a podcasty style. We just drafted Justice League. Our episode next week is going to be talking about all the books Tom Taylor did prior to Nightwing. So we're going to take a deep dive into Tom Taylor, hopefully recommend a few books for people who've been trying to invest in his work. And then we have Archives, which drops every Friday, where we review trade paperback, graphic novel, anything that comes out. So Link is actually leading the Young Avengers, so Link is doing a lot of great things with that. Yes, Herm, you can talk about Nick Spencer's Spider-Man. And then we have Creators Corner, which is where I interview creators in the industry. And that show obviously brings in a lot of people, but it's very rewarding because I feel like a lot of people get out of it, and then weekly wrap up is starting to get eyes on it more and more, which is great because I love reviewing comic books. I love talking about them.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about this. You have a show called the Weekly Wrap Up, right?
But it's on Mondays.
Yeah, but you have a show called the Weekly Wrap Up, right?
Yes.
I have a show called the Weekly Pop Culture Wrap Up.
See, I didn't even know you when I made that show.
No, that's okay. That's okay. All I'm saying is I have convinced my lawyers not to try to follow suit because they don't think they actually have a case. Because, the Weekly Wrap Up predates even PCP, right? So I'm just letting you know not to worry about it.
Oh yeah, thank you. Appreciate you, Robbie.
Yeah, you're right. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
That was the name of the show since day one when we did it on IG Live. It was, and then it was the whole transition to YouTube was weird because like I was doing it by myself. I didn't know what to do, and I was like, let me try it. And then I hit up Bryce Hillbilly Comics, who's in the chat, and he's been helping me out ever since, and that's been great. And then Link came along. Link has been like a latest addition because like obviously like I can't do it all alone. And it's great to have that support. And Link is a comic book encyclopedia. If I could talk about someone who knows comic books probably like more than probably anyone in this chat, it would be Link. It would obviously be Link. So I love.
He knows comics, but he's really high on Rising Stars for some reason.
Yeah,
I don't understand why.
I know, right? He's also really low on Empire for some reason, and
because Empire is not good.
Because I liked it.
Oh, you liked it? I'm glad you liked it. I didn't.
I liked it. I think it would have been. I think they kind of gave Al Ewing the short hand of the stick. Mostly because like he's still trying to build his story from Action Comics 2000. And from Incoming. So I think that because of COVID, everything just got so mixed up, and Empire was supposed to be so much bigger. Yeah. COVID dumbed it down, and it just messed with it. I think it would have been a lot better, but we're never going to know that.
I'm tired of them blaming COVID for things because I get that there was a couple months where comics weren't being distributed. It wasn't that long, and I'm not trying to downplay anybody's struggle during the pandemic, but you can literally write from home. In fact, you do it already, right? The people draw from home. So like, I'm tired of the COVID excuse when it comes to like why things fail. Here's my thing with Al Ewing. And this is something I've come to terms with. In particular, because of the last issue of Immortal Hulk coming out. Is that a book you've been keeping up with?
I've been reading it on Unlimited.
Okay. So I really think, and I've read what I think the first time I noticed I was reading an Al Ewing book was The Ultimates and Mighty Avengers, stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay. I love his concepts.
Yes.
but I do not think that he gets them across in a very clear and exciting way. I think it eventually gets really muddy and kind of long. Like,
Galactus being the life bringer was very dragged out in the Ultimate.
but that, that's a cool concept,
right?
And,
it was
the
awesome.
idea of the 8 ages of the Marvel universe, right? Like,
and then Eternity being like dragged down by something, and then you
those are amazing concepts, bro. But like, they don't ever feel exciting. Like, Immortal Hulk boiled down is a really cool concept that's going very deep into some like
sci-fi
Carl Jungian type shit, right? Like, it's philosophical. It's going into some like esoteric territory, teen dog shadesy. But there's so many bits of it that feel dull and boring, right? And
the whole 30,
I personally
30 through 38 were just boring.
I personally am getting a very bad impression of Al Ewing because of some things like from that last issue of Immortal Hulk 50, where him and Joe Bennett did their like send-offs, and Joe Bennett like exuberantly thanked everybody involved in the creative process, including Al Ewing. And Al Ewing was just basically like, I'm glad this book resonated with you. It means a lot to me. Like, I don't know. But anyway, aside from that,
I think
this fucker's also blocked me on Twitter.
Which
one?
I
found that out recently.
Al Ewing?
Al Ewing has blocked me on Twitter. I found this out recently, and it's left a bad taste in my mouth. And it's probably because I follow somebody that I don't even know that I'm fucking following. I'm on some fucking blockchain. So I was trying to tag Al Ewing and let him know how excited I was for him to work with Ron V on Venom. And I'm fucking blocked from Al Ewing. And y'all, I'll be honest, I'm a little bitter.
You're a little bitter.
I'm a little bitter about it.
Al Ewing stood up the excitable Rockin Robbie. I don't know. I like Al Ewing's concept. I think the whole thing with Joe Bennett is because he has a track record of being a distasteful person. But I think
here's
Al
the
Ewing
thing. They were political cartoons, right? That he did in 2017 that were already outed, right? And Al Ewing makes the statement, I'll never work with this guy again, literally right before the last issue.
Right.
And I don't want to quote Perch on this, but Joe Bennett is one of the main reasons why that book worked, because he was able to elevate this level of body horror, Cronenberg type shit into the Hulk. And that was the most interesting. And oh brother, it's not like, I'm not saying Al Ewing went out, found me and blocked me personally. It's probably because I followed somebody at some point who he blockchained, and who knows, who knows, you know, you have no idea.
Right. I mean, it was a little interesting that he came about it the way he did, because there was kind of the whole jewelry thing. Now, I used to talk to Joe Bennett because I tried to get him on the show one of these days. Like, I tried to get him, and he was like, I don't speak English, blah, 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 but look what I worked on today. I want to share it with you. And it was the original pencils to the Immortal She-Hulk cover. So, like, I was like the first one to lay eyes on. He's like, don't share it to anyone, please. I'm like, okay, I made it my home screen. But, because I was like, this is so cool. But that's the only distasteful thing I have about Al Ewing, because I'm like, it's a little fishy. Yeah, I haven't read Immortal Hulk 50, so I can't really speak too much on it. And I do agree that Immortal Hulk works because of Joe Bennett a lot, because he really depended on his storytelling to carry.
Also, I don't want to say that like I am not an 100%. Like, anybody that knows me knows that like I'm not down for like anti-Semitism at all. Right? You know what I'm saying? I have a
Jewish, so
you are. I have a very profound respect, because I was raised in the Judeo-Christian idea. And when I tried to explore beyond that, the first place I went was just straight Judaism, right? And still my personal faith and philosophy today is rooted very deeply in that, right? So I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that like we already knew this. It just felt weird that he did it like right before the last issue. He like, wait, bro, we knew about this for years.
He's like, oh, I needed you, but now I'm gonna call you out.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Al Ewing's probably a great person. I have friends in the industry that know him, that are that love him.
Right.
I'm sure he is, but he blocked me on. I'm blocked by him on Twitter, and it does kind of fucking rub me the wrong way. No, it was the first time I ever realized I was blocked by someone. And it's funny because I remember Bueller was blocked by Rob Liefeld on Twitter for like a while back in the day. And he was like, fuck Twitter. Like, how do you wind up getting blocked by Rob Liefeld? and never having it.
I
Really
know Rob
interacted with.
Liefeld's blocked a lot of people. I
Because
know.
they do the blockchain shit. They're like, if you've any, I'm going to block this person
No, like I know he's
and all of their
intentionally blocked
followers.
people. I've like seen like
No,
Rob
I know that.
Liefeld like go on his live. Like when he was live, like he would just come, his eyes would be bloodshot. So would just call
Can
him
you
out of
imagine
being
though? Rob
bloodshot.
Liefeld is one of those people that was incredibly successful, but at the same time, a lot of people like make fun of his work because it's kind of quirky. It doesn't look right?
It's
but,
not
but
sound. It's not.
well,
It's
but it doesn't have to be sound though, right? Because at the time, it was
works.
actually doing something. Like
Right.
Jack Kirby's artwork doesn't look like
Right.
definitive and like
No, he draws faces the
anatomically
same
correct.
way.
Mike Mignola isn't anatomically correct. John Romita Jr. You get what I'm saying? But like, that doesn't matter. It was the energy. But so many people talk shit about Rob Liefeld as soon as he was on social media. How many people wanted to go over there and talk shit to him about how he couldn't draw feet? I'd be blocking people too, bruh.
Now, Rob, to me, Rob is like one of the most inspiring people. Like I listen to his podcast, Robservations, and just the way that he talks about the Bronze Age. Like I wish I had that experience. I don't wish I was that old, as old as him, but I wish I had like that experience and to a level I can relate. Because like Brian Michael Bendis, Hickman, Mark Waid, who else is Tynan, Geoff Johns, Scott Snyder, like those are like my kind of people that I look up to, that I'm kind of aging with in the industry, or like that like blew up during that time. So I really love his passion for comics. I think that's what made his career very successful, is because he was hungry and he wanted to work. And I was talking to Fable, was actually telling me about this because he was a heavy reader then. Rob was like the energy. He was like the talk of the town during that time, which is something that I'll never like be able to like understand, but that's coming from him.
He
and
was
I
a
trust
fucking rock star. I was there when that shit was going on.
Like X-Force outsold Spawn, correct?
Yeah, it outsold Spawn, but it got outsold by X-Men #1 by Jim Lee. But like that was a stepping stone. So it was like McFarlane's Spider-Man #1 led into the success of X-Force #1, led into the success of X-Men #1, and those are direct market sales, obviously, and prices plummeted on all three of those books. Now they're back up again, which is crazy. It's crazy to see people paying more than $1 for Spider-Man, X-Men, and X-Force #1. But those books sold crazy. People gobbled them up. I still know people today that think Rob Liefeld is one of the greatest artists in comics they've ever seen.
I'd say he's one of the most passionate artists. I would say that. He's one of the best energies in comics, but I wouldn't say art. Like,
well, here's the thing. Art is subjective. Okay. Right. And as far as professionalism, I would never, there's a lot of stories there, but like, and I think technically, I think Silvestri is probably one of the best out of that entire original. My favorite out of all of them was Jim Lee. The one that I really respect the most continuously into today now is Todd McFarlane. But I used to hate Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld, but I found an appreciation for Todd in the last couple of years, and in the last 6 to 8 months, I found a new appreciation for Rob.
Right.
And Rob has a passion and an enthusiasm about the comic book industry.
And everyone wants that.
I wish that he would create more now. I wish he would do more work, because when he did that S.H.I.E.L.D. one-shot, like I checked it out and I was down. But the thing is, man, he lives by that image mentality, that like ride or die. If it ain't my way, I'm going and taking the highway. Like he does not compromise. He does not fuck around.
No.
And he'll let it be known, man. His feud he had was that with New York Comic Con or something?
It was with Big Apple Con. It was like
Big Apple, that's right.
Yeah, it was like so weird. I don't know. It was like some miscommunication with his agents, and I'm like, bullshit. But
and then he got in a feud with Scott Snyder one time because he made a statement that was obviously meant to. I think he wasn't. This was during the New 52, and he was doing Hawk and Dove, and it wasn't selling very well. And I think that bothered him. Okay. And he basically made a statement. He goes, it's not a big deal that Scott Snyder can make Batman a #1 selling comic book. It's Batman. Anybody can make that a #1 selling comic. He's got a point. But at the same time, he did that because he seemed like he was pissed. And it seemed like he was just like, there's no reason to throw shade at Scott Snyder, because Scott Snyder had, I think, one of the best modern Batman runs. Right. So
I'd say the best start. Like I would say Court of Owls is the best current like Batman story.
See,
like,
I would say the start of his Batman run goes before that. When Dick Grayson was still Batman, he did Detective Comics with Jock and
with Black Mirror.
Black Mirror.
Black Mirror is one of my favorites.
That's the best shit. His opening arc, the whole Court of Owls stuff is great. It kind of dips down with I don't think that's a very good Joker story.
I didn't like Zero Year. I like
Zero Year. I liked 0 Year when I read it all together. When I was reading it month to month, I didn't really like it, but that's where Capullo's artwork gets so tight and the coloring.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
No, like that's respectable. It's just, I feel like it was just more high valued concepts. I was like, oh, that looks badass. Like visually, it's one of the best Batman books we've ever had. I'm going to be very honest. Visually, I would compare Greg Capullo's work on Batman to Neil Adams, right? And how exciting it was to look at. But I wouldn't say substance-wise, Scott Snyder as a writer really found his footing, but like he did with Black Mirror and Court of Owls.
Well, you know what my favorite superhero mainstream work by Scott Snyder is?
Which one? Which is it? Was it a Swamp Thing or was it his
Justice League?
Justice League, yes. See, I would be right there with you. I think his Justice League I think he understood his characters. He had a great artist. He had a great team. And I think he rose the stakes to where you kind of got that excitement. To me, it was everything that Darkseid War really wanted to be, kind of like to have that same thing. But Scott Snyder, for some reason, his Batman just to me fell off so much to the point where it was like, oh, we're going to have this awesome bat, like this awesome bat uniform. Cool. But what else is there story-wise? The plot just wasn't as sound to me.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I'm reading the Morrison one right now. I'm halfway through the second Omnibus, and I love it.
I love it.
I love it. There's and to me, it's like not every issue was as exciting as Court of Owls, but the longer narrative pays off. You know, and I'm already kind of feeling that.
I'm more of a fan of Morrison's run over Snyder's, but I do think that Snyder and Capullo had a really solid run all the way through. All right, Brandon, this is the time of the show where you've made it to the big times now, at least those that consider PCP big time. Trust us, we're not big time. There's way bigger channels out there. I mean,
but you're everyone's favorite.
No, you're everyone's favorite, Brandon. This is the part of the show where you take over PCP. It's all you, bro.
All right, so while Robbie goes to the bathroom, I think, so kind of like I said, I was reading Batman's Grant Morrison. Other than that, I don't know. He just completely threw this on me. I don't even know what to say. I'm big time. But like kind of my issues with Scott Snyder, I love Scott Snyder's Justice League. It was great. Just the whole buildup was fantastic. Do I believe in aliens? I do. Sometimes I like the book a lot, but I just think what's exciting about Scott Snyder is he was able to develop these higher concepts in Justice League that I think he wanted to do in Batman, but never really found his footing. Just start dancing to dance music. Maybe. But his Justice League, I feel like people kind of fell off of because it kind of combined metal led into Hell Arisen, which led into Death Metal, which we recently reviewed. Death Metal was interesting. Death Metal to me was very interesting. I think that it wasn't really a centric Batman story, much rather than he just wanted to dabble into Wonder Woman a lot more. The thing about his Justice League team was that the actual like core of the team was so strong that it really drove the book and it really drove the Legion of Doom becoming what they were. So that was, I would honestly, if people do ask me what my favorite Scott Snyder book is, I would probably say Justice League as well. The Undiscovered Country's not bad, but Death Metal, I wouldn't say read it unless you've read his Justice League. Actually, have I ever encountered a spook, specter, ghost? No, not really. But other than that, you know, what else have I been really up to? Not a whole lot. Probably. You guys are ridiculous. Wow, Robbie really did throw that on me. But I think a better Batman run than Scott Snyder. I would even say Tom King had a better Batman run than Scott Snyder overall, even though it did get cut down. I would say I really did enjoy Tom King's run a whole lot more. I think that what he did with Bruce Wayne as a character was much more elevating, and it gave him a whole better dynamic than Scott Snyder did. It played more off like kind of who Bruce Wayne is and kind of dove into that substance of the book. The book had a lot more substance. You know, you think aliens read comics? No, Perry. but I think that Tom Taylor's Batman was great. It obviously fell off because of like editorial and everything, but kind of cut it short. But I really enjoyed it. The wedding, I didn't mind the wedding.
You mean Tom King?
Yeah, I love Tom King's Batman.
You said Tom Taylor, but you're talking about Tom King's run?
Yeah, that one. Sorry, did I say Tom Taylor?
Just a second ago. I haven't heard most of it, but
yeah. How nice bathroom break?
I mean, I had to grab another beer too.
Nice.
It's not just a bathroom break. I was also letting you be able to talk without me interrupting you, you know?
No, but I did. That was like out of left field. But
all right, so hold on. You say you like Tom King's Batman run? Overall?
I did. Overall, really did.
What do you like about it?
I like kind of how it was more of a Bruce Wayne story that needed to be said. A lot of times we really just see the cowl and not the person underneath. And I think that was a very important concept that not a lot of writers have taken the risk to dabble in.
What was the Bruce Wayne story that was told that you thought was important to tell?
The Bruce Wayne story that was important to tell is like how like the kind of the trauma of being Batman can have on him, you know, and kind of how he never takes the time to address kind of I don't want to say the PTSD of everything, but really like what happens when it's just himself in a room or like himself with one other person, right? Especially somebody that he's supposed to love and trust, but he can't because of the shit that he's seen out there in Gotham. Like he really wanted, like the whole concept was not really Batlove's cat, was like Bruce Wayne loves Selina Kyle, but as Batman and Catwoman, they just can't be together.
Okay. What I take away from it, what I really appreciate what Tom King was trying to do, and I understand some of the themes of, like, for the most part, I would say I am a Tom King fan. I've been harsh on him lately, but I just think that he hasn't really pleased me very much lately, but that has nothing to do with his level of talent or his theme. Like with Strange Adventures, I really appreciate the story. If it would have been anybody else other than Adam Strange, like just a random sci-fi, like make it just some random new character, I'm
halfway through it, but I'm waiting for the big deluxe.
Okay. I'll wait to really share thoughts on that. But, and I thought his Rorschach fell flat, but I'll tell you this. The nugget that I love about his Batman run is that Batman, the entire mission is a suicide mission. He lays it out very early on where he's willing to die. And he tells Alfred, you know, when he first Gotham and Gotham Girl are there, and he's about to go down with the plane in that first issue. And he tells Alfred, like, this is it. Like he wants to kind of die. Like this is a long-term suicide plan. Right. And so he realizes that early into the run where it's, I am Gotham, I am Bane, I am suicide.
He established that tone that he wanted his run to be early on. And not a lot of writers find that footing.
So then Batman comes to this realization, and everybody does this arc, by the way. It starts, Batman's a loner, he's depressed, and then he has to rely on his family now to get him through, right? This is a little bit of a different run, but the idea is that he never thought that he could be happy because he's going to die one day as Batman. And he thinks every day is his last day. And that's probably why he throws it. Well, I think he honestly, the point was that he thought every day was going to be his last day. Right. This is the day I die. I'm prepared for it. Right. And so now he gets rid of that idea because he realizes maybe I do deserve to be happy. Right. And so then he does pursue the relationship with Selina. And then the runs gets the thing is Tom King hasn't quite mastered structure completely.
Right.
Okay. He has done it in certain bits. Right. I think Vision over at Marvel is
perfect.
Amazing. Omega Men over at DC. Flawless. Like for real. Mr. Miracle is decent, but it is kind of up and down. And it didn't bother me how weird some of the characters were acting, but it bothers me in Strange Adventures for some reason, bruh. It really
I read the first half and I was so jumpy because I guess when you're having Mitch and Doc Shane are kind of drawing half the book, but it's like trading off each other. It kind of got with me. And then how he was writing Mr. Terrific when he first started, I was like, I can sit this one out. And then kind of bringing in Batman as well. I don't think he really gave them the voice that was that was necessary to the book, you know? That was like, it was just a little distracting from the actual narrative that he was trying to achieve. While it was a powerful message, it's like the other characters were so distracting from it. I think it'll read better in a trade, which is why I pulled out. And I love Tom King. I love his Supergirl. I love what he's doing with Supergirl.
Supergirl's been solid so far. I'm really excited to see what he does with 8 issues, because I think that's a good.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what he tries to do in 12, he could do in 8.
Right.
Like I think if Rorschach was done in 8, it would have been better.
Well, here's the thing about Tom King is after Batman, right? If you didn't like his Batman run, you're not going to read Bat and Cat. I'm not reading Bat and Cat. I'm waiting for the trade up because it's telling like 3 times.
Tom King's got a weird story too, bro, because okay,
and then Clayman just takes his time. Like you knew it was going to get delayed from jump.
Well, now it's Liam Sharp until the last issue.
Yeah, now it got delayed, and then Clayman couldn't even finish it. You know, just look at Heroes in Crisis. Same thing happened.
Yeah, you're. God damn it! What is it? I'm holding on to it. So Tom King has got a weird career because he tried to write a novel, didn't really work. He got the attention of some comic book stuff. He got to do a little bit of work here and there. He did Omega Man, and he did Vision. Vision was like a critical darling, right? Like people loved his Vision series. And then with very little time in the industry, he's given fucking Batman with the promise of 100 issues. Like what? This dude's in the industry for 2 years, basically.
Kind of like
and then
Ron
and
V.
he gets but Ron V's not given Batman. He's getting to co-write Venom. That's the highest profile project, that and Swamp Thing.
Right.
You know? So and Rom is on the up. Rom is
gonna kick off.
But Rom, I don't think, will have an extended long run on a major figurehead, because Rom is going to eventually, I think, just go fully creator own once something.
I think he'll be like the next Brian K. Vaughan and just completely create
something pops.
Right.
All it takes is one thing to really pop. That's what happened with James. You know, one thing pops and then bam.
Now it's the tiny onion.
Exactly. So,
but back to Tom. You know, he had Batman, and then after Batman, right, Mr. Miracle, which is a story, which is a message that needs to be told. But yeah, I love Mr. Miracle. I have 2 trades of it. I have the deluxe and the paperback. But wow, don't like Supergirl. But then I'm not reading Bat and Cat just because it feels weird to pick it up as bi-monthly now. It's weird. It's like whenever they want to put it out. It's not even that now, but it's whenever they want to put it out.
Well, the schedule is the schedule, but it's definitely going to read better collected regardless, because of the way the story is structured. There's 3 different eras that they're telling a tale in, and it's good, right? It's not bad. It's good. It's solid. It's hard to piece it together when you're just kind of like trotting along, but we'll see if he pays it off. Like I thought Rorschach was really brilliant in certain issues. And then when I got to the final three, I was like, this kind of sucks. It's like a dud of the year.
That's interesting. That's interesting to me, because I really want to get into Rorschach, but I kind of lost. I'm not a huge fan. I think Watchmen should be untouchable. I think Watchmen should just be its own thing.
Why do you think that?
It's so seminal and it's so nostalgic. It's like it's a figurehead book, and I don't think that it really blends well with the current DC right now. I don't know if Rorschach does crossover like they tried with Doomsday Clock. I don't think that worked at all.
It could have literally been. It could have not been Rorschach and worked just as well, if not better. Like it didn't feel like it needed to be. The only reason why it's Rorschach is because it's actually a commentary, which this is the clever bit that I do like about Rorschach. It's a commentary on Steve Ditko's personal philosophy and how that correlates to the effect of Rorschach in the Watchmen, both the show and the original series. So it's not like a sequel as in like it's continuing the story. It's really, it is interesting, but it takes way too long to get to a very obvious ending, and then it wastes the ending.
Right. Like I know they're trying to do more with Watchmen, but to me, like, I liked Watchmen. I know there are people who champion Watchmen. It's a great book. Structurally, it was probably like the first thing people seen in comics like that. You know, it was very revolutionary. But I don't hold it in the same regard. Like I read it, and like I look at people like it was good, but I don't go crazy for it. Like I just like it to be its own thing, you know? And I know a lot of people feel that way. And if you do feel that way, you're not going to read Rorschach. So like I feel like a lot of people right now with Tom King don't really have that book until like Supergirl, a book that you can just kind of start and like not really have any expectations going in, or not really have any like fences up going in. And I think that's more rewarding, you know.
Tom King is always right now writing to be evergreen is what he's doing. And that's why he's putting so much effort into these Black Label out of continuity books. Even Supergirl, it doesn't say it is out of continuity, but there's so many miniseries out right now. Like Titans United is obviously out of continuity. So is Blue and Gold. It kind of feels like it's out of continuity, but at times they say it is. I would have swore that Superman and the Authority was out of continuity, but apparently it's not.
Apparently it's getting retconned. Like, the Omniverse is so weird right now in DC because it's also serving to me as like a scapegoat. If a book doesn't sell, it goes in the other Earth, you know, or it's like not really fair.
It's the unraveling of hypertime. I get it. Like the past and the future is constantly.
And now you have what Grant Morrison is doing in their book, and then kind of where the Authority's coming in with what PKJ is doing soon. Like all the superheads are there together, and it's
the problem is that they haven't really established these rules yet about why. Like it does make sense now because I've said this before. It's like they explain at the end of Death Metal that both the past and the future are now like infinite. Okay, so they're always in flux, right? So anything can happen, but like they literally could just put a damn cape on him, and instead of JFK, it's Obama. You know that he's meeting the first issue, and it fits in continuity. It's just weird, but then again, whatever.
I don't know.
It was written for 5G.
Originally. Yeah. A lot of these concepts were Dan DiDio concepts, and then then he got fired, and they took concepps from 5G and tweaked them to match Future State and Infinite Frontier.
It's like at one point someone's like, "Oh, I'm overloaded this week. What do we got?" We're like, "Well, we got these 4 Grant Morrison scripts."
Yep, and they're like, "Here you go," because Grant announced that they weren't gonna do anything after Green Lantern, right? That they were retiring from it. And
well, it's because they had already done Superman and the Authority.
Right. And I was just like, wait a second. Like, that was a 5G concept. That whole book is a 5G concept. And they just had 4 original hit books.
Grant wrote that original 4 issues, and then they made a Bible, basically, that I think Philip Kennedy Johnson is, you know, looking at and then adapting into his own way and then moving forward. Right. So I'm excited. I really am. I like this iteration of the Authority. Grant replaced anybody that knows anything about the Authority, you know, you got to have an engineer, Natasha Irons. You got to have a doctor, like a shaman, the Enchantress, right? Like, so like the amalgamation. And I like this new OMAC. It's ridiculous. We're mac and cheese. Pronouns.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
I haven't read the last.
You got to check it out. There's a moment in there. That moment, by the way, I see a lot of people like, some people are outraged by it or whatnot. That is Grant making fun of shit, man. This is Grant in an interview. I don't remember where. Grant had said that this was meant to be tongue in cheek, and I totally get that vibe. Sometimes you can tell. Grant's my favorite writer of all time. I'm such a fan of Morrison. Morrison's comic book work, his personal philosophy, or their personal philosophy, literally changed my life in a very crucial moment of my life. So I want to know right now, Brandon, what's a comic book that changed your life? Because I'll say The Invisibles changed my life.
I would say, I always say this, Daredevil by Frank Miller completely changed my life. Like I said, I was in a very low point when I read that book. Like and I know this issue wasn't a Frank Miller one, but it was issue 163 was the one that really impacted me the most. That was the issue that Ben Urich was retelling the origin of Daredevil when he was in the hospital. To me, that issue alone was so powerful to me, right? And now when I was in that dark, I was like rock bottom, you know. And this run kind of just like gave me that feeling like, at the end of the day, you can have all these struggles. Like Daredevil's blind, you know, he was dirt poor. Now I wasn't dirt poor, but like the world was against him. He didn't have a romantic partner at the time. But then he kind of found himself, not really in his own faith. Like faith can only do so much for you. But at the end of the day, you have to believe in yourself in order to get out of the hospital, to keep doing what you're doing, to show up, do your job, and kind of not really let people in on your life, because everyone struggles, everyone goes through it. But it's how can you not let it take over your life? How can you keep going about yourself? How can you still be the same person you are, right? Now, I have health issues, so like at the end, like people don't know this, but sometimes after streams, I can't walk to my bed, which is like 5 feet down, right? So like, but it's like, how can I still go about my day and kind of not show the cameras what's going on? That was really, what can you do for yourself was what that omnibus taught me, right? And that book just completely it was really inspiring to me, and I always hold it in high regards. And even when Big Herm was reviewing it with Bullseye Bob and Sam, just gave me another reason to revisit it.
That's
and
awesome.
It was
shit.
Great.
I fucking love that Frank Miller Daredevil run, man.
Yeah, it was.
The first Daredevil comics I tried to read were back in the 90s when he had his armored costume, the Fade to Black run, right?
Kind of like the whole Hell run.
Yeah, right. Well, they got me because they had a glow in the dark cover.
Lee Weeks was on the art, right? Was it Lee Weeks at the time, or it was the dude after Lee Weeks?
For me, it was Scott McDaniel.
Okay,
right?
He was after Lee Weeks.
Yeah, who at the time I thought his artwork was weird because I was young. Like in those days, I'm like 10, 11 years old, okay? And then later on, as a middle school, early high school, I started loving Scott McDaniel on Nightwing with Chuck Dixon.
Oh my gosh,
that run is amazing. That run's amazing.
Yes.
And why there's not an omnibus of that?
There isn't, and it's so stupid because the trades are out of print nowadays.
Yeah,
they're not.
Yeah, they are. Why the fuck is there a goddamn? I love Tynan's Detective Comics. I just got that omnibus today.
Yeah,
we were talking about it last night. I just got it today. It's right there. I see it. Why is that in print before Chuck Dixon's fucking Nightwing? Well, like, come on.
Well, you know what it was? And there's a reason why Wally West wasn't there. There was a reason why Nightwing wasn't in the picture for a very long time. Is because Danny Dio
he hates legacy characters.
He's come out and said it. He hates those characters because they age Batman. They put Barry in a certain age. He didn't like a lot of those characters. So Chuck Dixon starting that run, right, really had the most seminal work, him and Scott McDaniel. Now, Nightwing's my favorite DC. If I've made a note to know every single issues of two characters, it's Daredevil and Nightwing. Nice. Other than that,
very similar characters, but very different at the same time.
They're very different, but they're still true to heart.
Yeah.
Their integrity is what brings me to them the most.
Yeah.
Not like their struggles, right? But who they are and how their struggles never affected that. Right. And they're not afraid to stand up to, let's say, Spider-Man or Batman. They're not afraid, right? And to me, that's kind of the way that I kind of see it.
Let's be honest, nobody in the Marvel universe is afraid to stand up to Spider-Man. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I meant like bigger, like selling characters, like Wolverine. I could say Daredevil saying like "fuck off," kind of shit like that.
I think Daredevil always appealed to me. So the first Daredevil I read, really outside of that Scott McDaniel stuff, was Scott Lobdell for a while when he was like able to see again. But then it was into the Marvel Knight stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then into Bendis and all this stuff. And I just fell in love
with
the character. That got me to Bendis's run, got me to go back and read the Frank Miller run.
What was amazing about Bendis's run was it was a shifted dynamic. If you look at the history with Bullseye and Kingpin since they crossed over into Daredevil, right? Or since Bullseye appeared and Kingpin eventually made his way over there, Daredevil they always attacked Daredevil. They always came after Daredevil because he was taking down a lot of the people in the crime families that Kingpin had under his belt. What's interesting about the Bendis run is the roles were reversed. What happens when Daredevil's the attacker and he falls into Kingpin's trap and Vanessa's trap? That was so amazing to me because you never really saw that. And it just made it such a grittier book with Alex Maleev on art. You couldn't have done that without Maleev and Hollingsworth's colors.
Here's something that's crazy is when that Bendis Maleev run was coming out, I was your age.
Station, Robbie. Look at
Station.
you.
Station. It was so exciting.
It's
We had
great. That run is fantastic.
Well, we had Joe Quesada coming in.
Oh, that one.
With Jimmy Palmiotti.
Yes.
And we had them doing their thing with Marvel Knights. And then Joe got the job as editor-in-chief. And there was this renaissance at Marvel where it went from like these really, I mean, I think that late 90s Marvel is a supremely underappreciated. Most people, they think, no, 90s Marvel, it sucked. Well, first of all, the Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld Extreme days didn't suck.
No.
You got to understand and absorb them in their context. And there's great runs throughout the 90s.
Right.
Like
they just get lost.
Peter David's work on X Factor and Incredible Hulk.
Right.
For instance, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's Hulk. What else was
Tom
great?
DeFalco on Fantastic Four.
Right.
But then, oh my goodness, because we all get fixated on X-Men seemed to just be going nowhere in the 90s.
Well, they had like Age of Apocalypse, which fell once Lobdell took over the book, it just fell backwards.
Well, there are moments though that are very appreciative about 90s X-Men. Age of Apocalypse, I think, is one of them. That's a really good, well executed and well realized crossover what if type event where we're going to change everything up for 4 or 5 months and then just bring it back. Like, I still love the Age of Apocalypse, right? But they're not necessarily
better.
Well, I like Onslaught because for me, Onslaught, because I grew up
man.
I grew up a Fantastic Four fan. Like, Fantastic Four is my number one favorite superhero title, right?
Oh, there you go, man.
So, like, when I was growing up, nobody gave a shit about Fantastic Four but me, right? Like, nobody I knew was reading Fantastic Four but me. Everybody was reading X-Men. Everybody was reading Spider-Man and all the Clone Saga shit, right? And I stuck with Fantastic Four, and Iron Man was my number 2. And so then I got into
Iron Man at the time when you were reading. It wasn't Michelini. It was Busiek was on it, right? By that time.
No, that's more that's later. That's like late 90s. I love the Busiek run, but I don't remember who was doing it. It was during the era where War Machine was first introduced.
Then it was Michelini, Romita, and Layton, because that was the creative team.
Okay, so it was when War Machine was first introduced and Tony had died, and he came back and he was remote controlling. It was the lead up into 300 is what it was.
Okay, it was that team.
And is that Layton and Michelini? Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, because Bob Layton was still there, because I've had him on and he was talking about that.
Bob Layton, that's a fantastic run there.
Bob Layton's I love that dude. He was funny too. But I see a lot of the chat talking about Detective Comics. And yeah, that was Tynan's Detective Comics, man. I'm excited that you got it too, because it was that run to me was it was like a sequel of Batman Eternal, or like you're taking kind of the same family aspect, but you're really turning it into more of a mainstream title that are going to have more eyes on it and more eyes on the Bat family. And it was like Batman's going to take a step backwards, and we're going to see what Tim Drake can do with a lot of characters that you're not really supposed to see a whole lot. Yeah. It was really interesting. Link and I did a video on that a while ago, which was fantastic. I know Link holds that in high regard as well.
Well, what did you think of it? A homie of mine was asking me about it. Like, what, is it good? And I was like, yeah, it is. Great. And he was asking me, like, is it better than Snyder's? He was like, basically, what's the best Batman run of that era? And I was like, well, it's the best Batman story. Actually, I would say
Eternal.
I would say from that era was Snyder's Batman, because I don't consider that Detective Comics run a Batman story. That's a Bat family story.
Right.
It's more of a Kate and a Tim story. And I don't know if you know this about me or not, Brandon, but I want this on my fucking mausoleum, because I want a mausoleum and I want my comic collection and toy collection around me and a great tomb I want to be buried like a pharaoh. But you can put this on the mausoleum, on the tombstone, whatever. I will live and die by this. The best Robin is Tim Drake. Okay. And mostly I say that because he was my Robin. Like, I grew up and when I started reading Batman comics, Jason Todd had literally, like, one of the first Batman comics I ever read was the death of Jason Todd. You know what I'm saying? And I was like,
I can't stand that motherfucker.
They just killed Robin. And I had no idea who Jason Todd was, right? Later on, after learning, like in my early 20s, when I was like, in my early 20s, I got my first gig at a comic shop. Yeah. Right. And I eventually worked my way up and became the manager, and then ultimately a partner. And I owned a comic shop. And in my early 20s, And I was able to just read whatever the hell I wanted. And back then, like, nobody cared about comics in 99, 2000, 2001, 2002, right? So, like, back issues were cheap as fuck. Like, all this stuff that's, like, super expensive now, you can get for, like, in dollar books, shit like that, right? So, I was reading all this stuff and catching up. And then I found out about Jason Todd, and I developed some very strong opinions about Jason Todd, which I still kind of hold today, that I don't really like Jason Todd.
I feel like if you love Jason Todd, you're like, I judge. That's like the only character I would actually judge you for is if you champion Jason Todd. But
I have a buddy, Mark, who passed away unfortunately last year. So station to Mark. But Mark was a big Jason Todd fan. I never understood it, but I get it now. There is something appealing about that character. But my ultimate point is this: Tim Drake is my favorite Robin, and I can back this up with two very important canon fucking claims. Number one, he's the first and only Robin who figured out who Batman was before Batman told them. Okay. There you go. Number two, I got three actually. Number two, the longest running solo Robin title belongs to Tim Drake. Okay. And number three, the first Robin to wear pants.
See, if we're going to measure who is the best, like who is the best at their job, I would say Tim Drake. I would obviously say Tim Drake is higher quality, the best Robin, the best out of the cut.
Hold on real quick. My point being that Tynion Detective Comics run is a Kate and a Tim story, but to me, it's probably the best Tim Drake story I've ever read. I love Tim's journey in that book. I love Tim's journey.
I say that
they've made some big changes to Tim, or I should say Tim has discovered some big changes in his life. And I would like them to actually fucking then explore Tim Drake again as a character.
Oh yeah, I would love it.
Instead of just doing something
and making it like an isolated event.
Exactly. Right? Like, where's Tim at? Where's Tim? Oh, don't worry. He's in this outsider story nobody's going to read.
Oh, they're going to get collected in trade and not really get read like Geoff Johns' Shazam, you know, which kind of just sits on the shelf. So we had to do a whole new bit about it. But I agree. I would love to get another Tim Drake story. Hopefully the Robins book that Tim Seeley is writing. However, I don't have a lot of faith in Tim Seeley as a writer. I hope he can prove me wrong. Like, I really want to love that book, but I don't think I will. That's just the thing. I really want to. But if we're measuring like qualities as a Robin, my favorite will always be Dick Grayson. However, I understand the best is Tim Drake. So to me, it's like whatever someone argues with me, I'm like, you're right, but you're not going to change my mind. But Dick Grayson is still my favorite. You know, so it's weird, but that Detective Comics run was just, I always love seeing books like that where Batman takes a step back and you see more of Gotham. There's so much about Gotham that can be explored.
What about the work? Nobody ever has done more work with Clayface than
that book. It gave you kind of a.
I'm going to go grab it.
You felt like very empathetic. I have it right here. Like right here. So while Robbie's getting it, right here. Boom. No. Yeah, Clayface was so really empathetic, right? And to taking a villain and kind of just flipping the script, it was great. You got it? You got your book?
Oh yeah, I brought them all over here. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Boom. Mine's still wrapped up because I haven't stretched the spine yet. You do that, right? You stretch your spines, don't you?
I just read them. Stack them and read them.
You don't stretch the spines?
Stretching a spine?
I'm serious as shit, bro. It's not even a joke. Check out one of Jim Mint's videos about how to stretch a spine, how to open an omnibus.
That's a nice plug for Jim Mint.
No, I'm being honest.
I'll look it up right after.
It's that because a lot of times, like, you can fuck it up, or you won't, but like the binding will fuck up if you read it. It's basically you just kind of like, you just check out Jim Mint's video. But the other ones I got that one.
Nice. Are we showing our omnibuy?
I got these today.
Nice. And you got that Superman?
This massive ass one. Jesus.
Yeah, that boy's huge. I got that one too, except it's under Velvet, Absolute Carnage, Sweet Tooth, and East of West.
Look at that thing.
That's thicker than a Kardashian, you know?
Look at that. They're fucking heavy. I was reading my Wolverine omnibus the other day. I'm new to the omnibus game. I've been hanging out with Jim too much.
Oh yeah, omnibuy are great, you know? This one's a big boy too. This one's probably that's the New Mutants. But it's Just
I've never,
it's thicker.
I've never read Claremont's New Mutants.
Really,
Yeah,
really.
I think I'll get the epics though. That's not like I am very seriously, Brandon, thinking about getting that Peter David X Factor omnibus.
That was great. That was a fun run. I think there's a lot of Havoc in that. I liked it.
Yeah, there's a lot of Havoc. He's the leader of the damn team, bro.
I know, and I love seeing Havoc.
Strong guy, and yeah, come on,
Polaris.
I know you're a big fan of Polaris, right? So,
I mean, she's wearing her wedding ring like right over there. Do you want me to grab her? But
dude, man, let me just tell you guys this. Could you imagine Brandon's reaction video on TikTok if they cast Emma Watson as Polaris?
Oh, what was JT saying about Pornhub?
Oh my god. He's like, I've already found the deep fake. Whoa, bro. Weird stretch, man. Come on.
No, but like I love Havoc. I loved him in Uncanny Avengers. I guess that was like the first story where I was like, this character is legit, And it also was very thoughtful too. If you're gonna pick anyone to be your representative from the X-Men and the Avengers, especially at that time period where they're kind of like mending fences, Havoc was perfect. And he did a great job in that book, and it's so slept on. It's so slept on.
I highly recommend omnibus. I would like to see then X-Force by Rob Liefeld and Fabian Nicieza. Like I would like to see the whole big chunk.
Yost. I would like to see Christopher Yost. His omnibus. I would like to see
that X-Force run is really good. Clayton Crane was doing a lot of the artwork.
But just think about all of that artwork just blown up.
Yeah. Here's my problem, bro, and this is my age showing, but I was reading my Wolverine omnibus the other day, and I like reading on the couch. I kick my legs up and I just read, right?
Right.
Bruh, I'm new to this omnibus game, and I was researching. I was like, do I need to get like a book stand or something? Because it was hurting my goddamn arm, and it was hurting my fucking back, bro. It was hurting my back reading a goddamn Wolverine omnibus.
No, so when you're reading an omnibus, I kind of just like set it on something when I read. Like if I'm reading it like right here,
I feel like such a nerd if I'm reading at a desk, bro. I used to do that shit in high school.
No, not like reading at a desk, but like if I'm on the couch, like I'll lay down and I'll prop the book up on my knees, right?
Oh, I can't do that, man.
I mean, or if you're like reading and because like with my back,
bro, this is how I read. Let me get a normal fucking book here.
Wolverine broke my back. Right, that's funny, but
here's a normal book, right? Like epic collection of Peter Porker's. I read like this. I hold my comics always like a Bible, like I'm preaching a sermon, right? So I like doing this, and I'll read it like this.
Oh, you can't do that with no omnibus.
I can't do that with an omnibus. I can't just be like, I can't do it. It was hurting my fucking arm and back, bro. Dude, how am I supposed to read an omnibus? I really got to sit here like a nerd and be like, let's see here. Next page.
Why do you think Gem Mint has the
arm? Do I need to get a pulpit? Do I need to get a pulpit and stretch it out like people have in their Bible, and to make it look like to other people that are showing up to their house like they read their Bible and they have it on this book stand and it's opened up to John 3:16? By the way, that's a great one, right? Hell yeah. Peter Porker's Spider-Ham.
That's such a weird concept, but it just works.
It works. I was there. That shit was so fun, bro.
It's so weird. It's like, I don't know. We were kind of talking about concepts earlier, and it's just like, what do you think is okay? Let me ask you something. What is the most kind of out there concept that has kind of been introduced in like modern comics?
In modern comics?
Or even we can go like, what do you think are some kind of weird concepts that just work? Kind of like how we were talking about Galactus being the life bringer and all that shit.
Oh my goodness. Oh Jesus. I really thought that the concept of Null and the whole symbiote collective that Donny Cates brought in was pretty crazy. My favorite crazy concept that I've read in my comic book reading life was Geoff Johns doing Green Lantern, where when he resets and reconceptualizes the fall of Hal Jordan.
Yes.
And how that represents to Parallax and the Yellow Lantern, the yellow energy. And then the Sinestro Corps war. And then that leads into the emotional spectrum and Blackest Night. And I thought that was that wowed me. When they were getting into that shit, bro, that book never ceased to amaze.
No, right? That book was just so exciting. I think Geoff Johns' Green Lantern yeah, it introduced like a whole lot of new characters, but it grew kind of that cosmic energy in Green Lantern that just no one else took the time to dive into, you know. And it gave not only gave like each character in the Green Lantern Corps a voice, but it played off of that mythos and just exhilarated all the rings. Like, oh, we can have a ring for this, we can have rings for that, and create some big bombastic kind of sci-fi story.
And then later on, someone like Bendis shows up and he goes, "What if there were gold lanterns?" And you're like, "Yeah, bro, we've already done that bit. Let's move on. Let's do something different."
Right.
The other thing is just as far as concepts go in comics in general, the recent one by Anand R.K. and Ram V. and Aditya Bidikar, Blue and Green, as a concept blows me away because it's a comic book. It's a horror story. It's very much Hellraiser-y to me. It's got this Clive Barker tinge, but at the same time, it's steeped in the culture of early jazz, and the book is written and executed and reads as a jazz piece, like where it literally, like if you're familiar with jazz and what it does and how people create it and how it's very fluid and it will be different every time, like Ram V and Anand RK and everybody else, they literally did the book that way. Like
I've never read that one, so it's
like Ram didn't have a full script. He like wrote a page, he sent it to Anand, and then they sent it to Aditya, and then it come back to him, and then he'd write the next page because it felt free and loose. And it goes from a very structured book to a very loose book, like jazz will. Jazz will be very structured,
right?
And then it will just be like.
Right, and jazz, that's kind of like the flowiness of jazz music is
the way that he's able to. And when I had Ram on my show, he mentioned how to him comic book pacing was like the beat of a song.
He said that on my show too.
Yeah, right. So like, and his work is so lyrical like that. Not necessarily in dialogue, but
in like kind of how he establishes the world,
the rhythm, of the pace of the book. And in Blue and Green, he gets to really experiment with that with his collaborators.
Right.
And I'm really excited to see him and Anand back again on Radio Apocalypse because they're going to be doing the same type thing there.
I would say The Many Deaths of Layla Starr is a good example of that as well, which is another book that's held in very high regard that if you're not reading, you should. I think there have been enough people to tell you guys that you should read that book. So if you're missing out, it's on you at that point. Until the trade comes out.
My favorite book of 2020 was Blue and Green by Ram V. And my favorite book so far of 2021 is The Many Deaths of Layla Starr.
I agree 100%.
But we'll see what happens when Picture of Everything Else concludes eventually. Because that's right there with it by Dan Waters. And Kishore Mohan, I think, something like that.
Right. I love.
Have you read that one?
No.
You got to read The Picture of Everything Else. I believe there's 4 issues, right, out of 5. I think that we're just still waiting on that last issue.
No, because we who JT asked in the chat, and I wasn't reading it. There's stuff going on with that book. That I don't even know, but he said
I'm gonna find out what the date is right now. You keep talking, Brandon.
But yeah, Dan was great.
Yeah, how did that show go? You had him and Danny on.
Him and Danny. So the Coffin Bound team came on the show talking about Arkham City. They were supposed to come. We had this scheduled for a very long time. They were supposed to come earlier, like pre-release. But DC was doing their own exclusive thing, so I couldn't. So they kind of stepped over me. Screw you, DC, if you're listening to this.
Whoa, calm down.
But again,
the date I have right now is November 24th.
Okay.
That's the date I have on Diamond. Yeah. I'm on Diamond site, plugged in as a retailer. And I have November 24th. FOC is November 11th. So they actually have an FOC date correlating to it. So it may actually be happening.
Nice. So it was great. And then I loved that I met Danny at GalaxyCon right before the world ended. So I've always kind of had like an in-person relationship with her because she was great to meet and talk to her. She was like so interactive. And she was like so excited to like just talk about Coffin Bound. And then she started like doing other work. So I was like, hey, this would be cool. And then her and Dan were getting back together. And Coffin Bound is one of my favorite books. What's up, Jen? So I really
love Coffin Bound, bro.
I love Coffin Bound. And
when we had Dan on the show, I asked him if him and Danny were doing a Coffin Bound Volume 3. And he's like, we will, but
we
have something else in the work right now.
Yeah.
And it was fucking Arkham City.
And it was Arkham City. And now Dan's saying that he's working on a Zatanna story.
Bruh, Dan Waters doing Zatanna, I'm down.
I'm so down. Like, I would love.
Way down.
I want it.
Dan's work is so ingrained in classic literature.
Right.
And when we had him on the show, I felt like he was kind of nervous talking to us, right? But we had a good chat. But when him and Brian got to start talking about classic literature, that dude came alive. And at the end of the show, he's like, next time, let's go 2 hours. I want to talk about books and stories. Right. It was great, man. He's such a cool dude, man. I love that entire White Noise crew. Ram V, Dan Waters, Alex Pagnadell, and
they all started writing in prose before they got into the comic industry, which is why I think their writing is so acquired right now. They're so great, is because they know how to write in that style and adapt it into comic books, which not a lot of writers have that background. So it's
they also, because I haven't actually chatted with Ryan in person, but Ram, Alex, and Dan, they always mention like how influential that British invasion was of Alan Moore into Neil Gaiman and Peter Milligan and Grant Morrison and then Garth Ennis and Warren Ellis, and like how that influenced their work and how comics, we're talking about a generation now that was raised on Vertigo.
Right.
I miss
Vertigo.
They're bringing that sensibility.
Man, when I started, Vertigo ended, and I started reading, what was that book that Robert Rodriguez was doing? It was, Hex Girl. It was something.
Hex Girls is
Hex Wives.
Hex Wives.
Yeah, Robert Rodriguez is doing.
Okay.
Yeah, and I loved NHL.
That's the last hurrah. And I remember Second Coming was supposed to be a Vertigo book.
Right.
And then they got too hot for them to handle. And I was like, what is this, 1993 again?
Right. And I remember when Dan and Danny on the show started off so awkward because Danny was like, I don't know what to do. Like, Danny was so innocently, like, I don't know, talkative. Like, she was very innocent, like, with everything. I'm very, like, naive, or I don't even know, like, how to call it, but she was, like, not really afraid. So, like, we just started talking about books. That's kind of how I let it, because I wanted to talk about Arkham City, just dive in, and then they're like, not really talking. So, okay, look, I warmed them up. I said, let's talk about books. What got you into comics? What'd you like? And that's when the conversation started. Then we went back to Arkham City and got more information from it because we kind of, like, their cats are adorable.
Danny and Dan Waters do amazing work together, man. Coffin Bound is, I always describe it as a grindhouse version of Sandman.
Right.
Meaning it's got the raw, visceral edginess of a grindhouse film. It's sleazy, it's greasy, it's dirty, and it's got the poetry of Sandman.
Right.
And the resonance of it.
It's like I kind of see it as like a graceful punk. That's kind of how I describe it to people.
You liking Homesick Pilots then? Speaking of punk?
Yeah, I'm reading it in trade, so I'm waiting for volume 2. I've been reading
the way volume 2 ends, bro. You're gonna be like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Dan?
I've been reading it.
Have you read Limbo?
No, but like
read Limbo. It's the first time that Dan and Casper worked together. Limbo is amazing, bro.
I got you. I'll add it to the backlog.
Have you read Deep Roots?
Few issues, vaguely.
It's only 5, so you should read them. Deep Roots and Limbo are fantastic. Have you read Void Trip by Ryan Sullivan?
No.
Ryan O'Sullivan.
See, because like I still haven't.
Down. Have you read Fearscape?
Gotta have. Yeah.
Okay, Fearscape's dope as fuck.
That's the thing with indies to me. I don't really see myself as a newer reader. I see myself as a newer reader to indies. Like, I know that's more of like the biggest fad now. So like but I wouldn't say it's a fad, but it's more like what's driving the industry now is indies, rather than the big.
There's been
deep into them.
There's been decades of work though to build indies up to this point.
That's why I want to go back and read. Like, I still want to read Black Science. I want to read more of like Rick Remender's stuff. Sorry, generally don't like Rick Remender, but Coffin Bound does not get the love it deserves. I want to read Lazarus. I want to go back. I want to read Chew. A lot of like those classic indies that I've missed out on. before kind of like, I just want to get a feel for that. I'm always open to it. So
Yeah.
after like I get caught up in like the big two with what I have left to really get caught up on. Yeah, Jen's like adding me right now.
What I would recommend is to check out this channel I know of called Pop Culture Philosophers. This guy does a show called Rockin Robbie Live, and he'll just talk about whatever he recommends, and he will give you a whole giant list. Like for instance, he may say things like The Invisibles. He may say things like make sure you read We 3. He may say things like make sure you read Planetary. That's a must read.
Yeah, Link's been on me about that.
Yeah, and make sure you read Bendis's early work, like
Powers,
Jinx and
Link
Goldfish.
is on me about that.
Jinx and Goldfish.
Between you, Link, and Jen, you, Link, and Jen, I have like an indie list that when I want to dive in, it's also like I want them to release them in compendiums. Like I want Deadly Class to get a compendium. I want I want them to reprint Killer Be Killed.
Deadly Class is dope, man. Deadly Class is
I have the first volume, and I'm like, I just, it gets expensive.
I don't care what Jen says, man. Deadly Class is dope.
7 to Eternity is one of my favorite books that I've read. Link, thank you for throwing that in there.
His Uncanny X-Force.
His Uncanny X-Force,
Is there an omnibus of that? Because that's a really good run.
It's out of print. It's like one of those expensive ass omnibuy. Omnibuy. But I have Velvet right here from Brubaker.
Oh, Velvet's really good. That Steve Epting artwork. Holy shit, bro.
I was flipping through it. I was like, this is getting read. This is getting read fast.
Velvet's
I have East of West that I want to
have you read? East of West. One of the greatest comic books of all time. I got my deluxe editions right there.
I have the first one and I have the other two at the shop. They have my name on it. They're like, whenever you want to get around to it.
Better get that 3 as soon as you can because that one started going up. But
I'll probably, when I get more cash on me, I'll go buy them.
Yeah, East of West is really super good. You definitely got to get. Have you read Fatale by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips?
I read 2 issues. I read like a few issues that add in Criminal, and
it's a little bit more horror oriented. Yeah. I know you're not the biggest horror fan, but here's the thing. Right now, Brandon, I want to get you on air, and I want to get you to commit to something. I want you to join me and Dylan for an episode of Dylan's Horror Show at some point in the future. We'll pick the movie that we think is the best film to represent horror films to you. Would you be down for that?
I would absolutely be down.
You watch it, you come on the air with us, and we talk about it, right? Those shows are on Saturday nights.
Yep.
The time fluctuates.
I know. I popped into a few, and I'm like, Dylan said he was going to start at 6, right? And and then Herm and Link were like,
now here's the thing. Would you say that you're easily offended?
I don't know.
Okay, we're going to test that. All right, we're going to give you a gnarly horror movie to watch and talk about with us. You ready for that? Yep. Dylan didn't even know about this, but it doesn't matter because guess what? I'm the executive producer of Dylan's Horror Show.
Nice. And Jen, yes, we can do East of West for Indie Deep Dive, which is a fun show that we do as well.
If you guys talk about East of West, can I join?
Robbie, you see, Jen's the big boss. She's the one with the muscles, so you're gonna.
No, I know. I was talking to her. Not you, Brandon.
Yeah, see, she's the muscles, man.
Just kidding. I'm just messing around. Don't worry about it. Here's a question.
Whatever Jen says goes.
Who's your favorite writer in comics?
Currently, that's a weird question. I kind of want to say Zdarsky right now. I'm kind of on the Zdarsky bandwagon. I've been enjoying Johnny Cates, but I kind of fell off though. I feel like if you're gonna be my favorite, you have to speak to me on a personal level. You have to hit it. Now you have to like have issues that even if it's a lull issue, quote unquote, you still get something out of. I would say Zdarsky is doing that. If Peter Tomasi would come back and write once Snipe and Slugs comes out, I'm a good friend of Brad Walker's, so we've been talking about it. I don't read Red Room. Ed Pisker's a fellow Pittsburgher, but see, Red Room is I've seen it, and no, it's not mine. It's not for me. I'll let someone else claim that book. But
Red Room's in my top 5 so far for this year.
See, I know it is, but it's just not for me. But
I can't wait to pick a movie for you, then, Brandon. Just
Hickman.
wait.
I would say Hickman. I love what he's doing right now.
What do you guys think? You think Brandon's ready for Cannibal Holocaust? What do you guys think?
Philip Kennedy Johnson is another fantastic writer. He's also a very good friend. He's an hour away from me, so are
you just going to name people that have been on your show multiple times?
No, because Philip and I are actually like closer. Like I love Mark Waid. Mark Waid would probably, I would say, is one of my favorite writers. But
Did you hear the news today?
That Mark Waid is going to be coming back to DC
with Dan Mora doing World's Finest.
I didn't. Mark Waid and Dan Mora doing World's Finest.
Yeah, Batman Superman World's Finest by Mark Waid and Dan Mora.
Ooh,
yeah,
like
you heard about
like
that?
That. I didn't hear about it.
Oh yeah, that excites me. I'm down for that.
I'm down for that. I had a busy day. Jeff, I saw someone say Jeff Lemire in the chat or Cullen Bunn. See, that's weird because like I like Cullen Bunn. I like Cullen Bunn. But his work is very hit or miss. It's mainly been a hit, but I don't know.
He's prolific. He's like Stephen King in comics. He does a shit ton of stuff, and
he has a very niche audience.
Some of it works,
which is great. Jeff Lemire is great too.
Have you read Dark Ark by Cullen Bunn and Wando? Read that one. That one's really good. But I have
been enjoying Basilisk a lot. Basilisk has been very enjoyable for me.
It's been pretty decent.
Rodney Barnes is great too. Not my favorite.
I really like
Brian K. Vaughan is one of my favorites.
I really like Rodney's Army of Darkness 1979. It's like, what if Ash woke up in the Warriors movie?
I'm just looking at books that I have like sporadically. Like, I think Jed MacKay has become.
Yeah, I asked you your favorite. You've listed like 20. You're good.
It's so hard. It's so hard for me to say like a definitive favorite.
It's easy for me. Grant Morrison. All right.
Are we talking all time though? We're talking all time.
I said all time. I said favorite.
Bendis.
What's your favorite Bendis work?
Ultimate Spider-Man.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense because it's definitely his best superhero work. That it's the most complete story from beginning to end of a superhero. Right? Yeah. Like if you just read through the death, right? And it kind of falls off the rails a little bit towards the end, but like there is nothing like what those first like 50 or 60 issues were like, man.
Right. It was,
oh my goodness.
It was so good. And
decompressed storytelling was new at the time.
Right.
Now it's become to the point where we like, sometimes now it's a novelty to have a very compressed story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
I would have to say definitively Bendis. Maybe that's because I've been binging Bendis a lot lately. And going back to it. But I would say like Ultimate Spider. And I'm a huge Daredevil fan, but his Daredevil is not my top two. I would say it goes Ultimate Spider-Man and then New Avengers, kind of all of that with Secret Invasion Siege, and then I'd give him Daredevil. I really enjoyed his Moon Knight. His Iron Man was fantastic. What else did he? I like Jessica Jones.
Yeah, his original Alias book in particular is really good.
Really
I would say that my favorite Bendis stuff, it's hard to even, I don't know where any mainstream book would wind up in the top 5. Ultimate Spider-Man might make it, but I just want to stress once again, like Steph tells you, read Jinx, Goldfish, and Torso. In my opinion, the best book that Bendis has ever done is Torso. You should read it. Torso.
You and Link are so similar.
We're near the same age, if not the same age. And I think we grew up in the same era of comics.
Yeah.
So.
Jason Aaron, I would say, can be one of my favorite writers at times.
Can be. His Thor run's brilliant. I love his Thor run.
Because Conan was brilliant.
Conan's really good. I don't really necessarily like Avengers.
Scalped, right? He did Scalped, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't necessarily like Avengers. I have never read Scalped. His Punisher Max series is really fucking good.
Yeah, his Ghost Rider, his Doctor Strange.
I've never read his Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider is so good.
I'm not a fan of his Doctor Strange, actually.
Was it Bachalo's art?
No, I like Bachalo. It was just...
Oh, Bendis' Miles was great, too.
It was just that, to be honest, I feel like Jason Aaron kind of dumbed down magic in the Marvel Universe. But I'm a magic guy. Like, I'm very particular.
I love magic, and I loved how he dabbled in it and kind of. I think Bachalo.
He dumbed down the idea to the idea that there were just these goofy entities that only he could see, and they did that whole fucking. I mean, the idea that he had to take on that magic had a cost makes sense, and that's real. If you believe magic is real, but some of the stuff was just too fucking goofy, man. I don't know.
I mean, that's also Bachalo, you know. I feel like with Chris Bachalo, there's an inside joke that only him and his inker Tim Towson get.
The answer fable is everything.
Invincible and Ultimate Spider-Man, I would say the big two. But I don't know. I loved his Conan. I'm very excited for King Conan. I've been waiting for King Conan. Like there's no tomorrow. Yeah, The Oath was great by that Brian K. Vaughan did.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Who's your favorite artist ever of all time? Favorite comic book artist of all time?
Ooh, that's weird. That's a weird question.
I love how
right
I
now,
ask Brandon who his favorite writer of all time is and who his favorite artist of all
that's
time
his
is, and he
artist.
goes, "That's a weird question, bro. You've been on Comics YouTube. You've never been asked that
I
question."
know, but it's like I never have an answer for it because like it changes.
I have an answer. Jack Kirby. There you go.
Jack Kirby's here. I would have to say
Jack Kirby, Mike Mignola, Francisco Francavilla, John Byrne, John Buscema. That's my top 5.
I would have to say Cockham's in the Perez. Probably Perez if I were to go all time. Probably Perez. Cockrum, I will hold over.
What's your
Byrne.
favorite work by George Perez?
I'm very, very biased to his Fantastic Four and Avengers because I was like so exciting with Englehart, and then I'd even prefer that to Teen Titans at times. I always like whenever I look at an artist, I'm like, okay, this is their best work. To me, it's like I kind of champion kind of like their lesser known work. Like with Perez, I would say his Avengers was fantastic. His Fantastic Four was great.
That's early though. Yeah, have you read his Wonder Woman work?
I did, but I don't champion it the way a lot of people did. I think it was great for the Wonder Woman character because it gave it that excitement.
Oh, and the artwork, bro, was so crazy at the time.
Yeah, it was tight. It was like tight, not like it was tight. Like the way
it was tight, and the composition was something different.
Yeah, it was like it felt like you were looking at, like, you know how in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where like they use like that hollow map and like they move it. His art felt like you were looking at a hollow map, right? And you can just pull it up. That's what it felt like to me. I loved his work on Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity War.
Yeah.
Infinity War.
He didn't do Infinity War, and he only did the first half of Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, but
when you say Avengers, do you mean the Avengers run with Kurt or the you mentioned
Englehart?
Steve,
Englehart.
So my favorite work of his is that fucking Kurt Busiek run. Like I love that post Heroes that Heroes Return run.
Yeah,
I freaking love. I think it's amazing.
I think
some of his best work too. The JLA Avengers run is really freaking good.
Yeah, that's cool. That's super cool.
Mark Bagley is in my top 3 favorite Spider-Man artists.
I would say Mark Bagley to me is my favorite Spider-Man artist. Just because he changes his style for Spider-Man, but his voice on the character is still like the same in his artwork, which I think is very hard to achieve. Like you look at who came after Todd McFarlane, Mark Bagley, Eric Larson. Eric Larson had a very similar style to Todd McFarlane. He took a lot of inspiration from the composition of it, but Mark Bagley kind of just did his own thing. Which
I think McFarlane's really closer. Cool. McFarlane's closer to Bernie Wrightson, and say Eric Larson's closer to a Jack Kirby.
Right. I love current artists. I love Russell Dodderman.
Oh yeah. Can we get him to actually do the interiors of an ongoing book again?
Please, or is he just going to do covers? Please do it. Like, and we're
Could you imagine? Marauders would hit so much harder if he was the artist.
I agree. I think I think any book would hit harder with Russell Dodderman on. I don't think you can go wrong with his artwork. It's just clean. I love Bruno Redondo right now. I think people are becoming more acquired to Redondo. I'm loving who else am I loving currently? I love Jorge Jimenez, Francis Manapul. That whole Justice League team that Snyder had was great. I've been liking Tony Daniels on Noctera, and I think if you were to ask me who is the most improved artist, I would say Tony Daniels, 100%.
I can dig that.
When he started with Batman, when he started like doing like some Star Wars stuff, some little stuff here and there, it was so sloppy. And then he did Deathstroke. It got a little better. Did some pencils with Batman. It looked dope, right? Put out some dope covers, but his interiors just a little rusty. And then Noctera hit, and it's like, it's clean, and he's like pumping it out very efficiently. So I kind of have a soft spot for Tony Daniels because I appreciate hard work.
Do you know who else is really good right now? Do you know who else is really good right now? Alvaro Martinez
Martinez
Bueno.
Bueno, yes. Justice League Dark was fantastic. A Nice House on the Lake continues to excel.
Holy cow! Right. All right, Brandon. This is the second time tonight where you get to take over
Where
the reins
I
of
get
PCP.
There we go. There we go.
I gotta take a whiz, man. I'm sorry.
All right, be back. 30-second timeout for Rockin Robbie. Now I can tell you guys why the Steelers are the best team in football and why the Cowboys absolutely suck.
All right, let's talk about that real quick. So, just kidding, man. Just kidding.
Hi. But it's kind of hard nowadays when you're asking, like, okay, who's the best artist, who's the best writer, because everyone kind of changes their styles. Like, certain characters fit for certain writers. To me, it's like I can look back and say who's my favorite writer when they're done writing comics, because they always find ways to improve. They always find different voices and play around with different characters. Like, if you ask me who is one of my favorite writers in Rebirth, I would say Joshua Williamson with The Flash. And I'm not a Barry Allen fan, as I said earlier, but I loved it, right? But nowadays, I don't see that with Joshua Williamson. I didn't see it with Infinite Frontier, with that big, whatever the fuck it was. I saw it with Robin, but I didn't see it, which wasn't really supposed to be his flagship book. It was supposed to be Infinite Frontier. And it sucked. It sucked. I'm not seeing that with Deathstroke, you know? So I would say Geoff Johns is becoming one of my favorites. I would say Frank Miller's always, but yeah, Rebirth Flash was so good. It was so good, but now Joshua Williamson kind of fell off a little bit, in my opinion. I think he was. Echo Land's making J.H. Williams go way up on your list. I haven't read Echo Land, which is weird. I'm hoping they can like do something cool with the trade. I don't know. Maybe I'll probably go back and read it, but it's just, I loved a book that everyone I think has slept on was Secret War by Brian Michael Bendis and Gabriel Dell'Otto. When this introduced Maria Hill, this introduced Quake, and this was, I don't know if anyone played Ultimate Alliance on the PS2, PS3 when it came out, right? Kind of like in the early 2000s. I think Ultimate Alliance 2 came out in like 2008, 2007 or whatever. But that's really the story leading into Civil War, is basically like Nick Fury takes his Black Ops team to Latveria because they're doing some fuck shit. But Nick Fury goes behind the U.S.'s like jurisdiction, or like he doesn't get their consent. Dell'Otto's artwork was so great. And if you look at, so there are like kind of like those splash dumps that Hickman did, but they're so much better because it's like Dell'Otto's composition and it's like actual like shield files. And it was great, you know? Yeah, Ultimate Alliance is awesome, right? Dell'Otto doing the interior work was great. I don't think I've ever seen a better Spider-Man costume design, like better colors in a book than what Dell'Otto did with that. I was so excited to finally like buy it in trade. And I would love to like have the floppies, but I don't have them because like now they're crazy expensive now because of Quake. But such a good book. It was such a good book. If you haven't read it, it's an experience. Another like kind of thing in comics that I loved about Bendis was you got so much out of an issue just by people sitting around and talking. You don't see that anymore. Writers nowadays just are not that patient, right? And I think that's where you get a lot more character dynamics. That's where you get character growth, is when they're talking to people. And nobody nowadays, readers, writers, artists, are not patient enough. Editors, like we were talking about earlier, are not patient enough to give writers the time to take a few characters, sit in a room, and just get shit done. I think, and that was one of my favorite things when Bendis wrote The Illuminati, is 5 issues, but it did so much, and it was so well written. We just had people sit in a room, and you got so much out of it. Sorry, I'm still talking about Bendis, but
it's time for rapid fire questions, Brandon.
Hell yeah.
What's your favorite color?
Purple.
Good choice. What's your favorite TV show of all time?
All-time TV shows. Ooh. Big Bang Theory.
Okay. What's your favorite comic book movie of all time?
Winter Soldier.
Okay. What was your favorite food of all time?
Probably right now I'm a huge fried rice person, right? I love Asian food.
Chicken, shrimp, pork?
What? Pork.
What's your favorite supervillain of all time?
Magneto.
Nice. What's your favorite sports star of all time?
My favorite sports star, Ben Roethlisberger. I have a personal story with him.
Okay. What's your favorite show we do here on PCP?
weekly comic book review.
Oh, well, thank
where
you.
I read a lot of books and I let you know what I thought about them.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, bro. Yeah.
And we always
absolutely.
start with a pick of the week. And today's pick of the week is Beskar, written by Joey Gallo. Or Joe, not Joey Gallo, Joe, whatever his name is, Joe Schmo.
What's your pick of the week?
My pick of the week, I haven't read my weeklies a week, but last week I would say it was Spider-Man. I'd say Spider-Man was my pick of the week. That in Arkham City.
Okay.
Mostly because I was so disappointed by Nick Spencer's run, and this was a great take on Ben Reilly where you weren't retconning the Clone Saga, and you just kind of set the tone for what's to come, and it was very light, very fun, but it established a whole lot.
Nice. And here's a question.
Yes.
Have you ever come across an alien, a ghost? Have you ever experienced anything paranormal that you'd like to share with us, bro? I'm really interested in this stuff. I don't know if you knew this about me or not, but
you're very interested. Well, one time I got really faded and I just started. It was weird. So like, I don't know how to say this, but like I got like really, really faded one time, and I just like, I don't know. I started like feeling.
You're in a safe space, Brandon. You can say whatever you want to here on PCP. We don't judge. We're literally called PCP, bro. Come on.
Yeah. So like one time I got faded. And it was like the first time I like.
Hold on a second. When you say faded, like, are we just about pot?
No, it was like I took like I took a weed gummy. I took Percocet from my surgeries. I kind of took a lot of Percocet and then went drink on top of it. So I was like triple cross. It was like
bro,
weird.
You were faded, man.
I was like faded. And we were watching Alien. And we just had to watch Alien. I saw the xenomorph next to me. It was weird.
Okay, but like outside of that, have you ever had a paranormal experience?
No, that was
okay.
It.
Okay. What do you think about it? Do you believe in, do you think that aliens and UFOs have visited us? What do you make of the news recently? The government is revealing more of this footage of legitimate unidentified flying objects where we don't know what the fuck they are and they're going super fast. Like, are you aware of that? Do you have what are your opinions on it, bro? I just want to know.
Until we get another. Okay, so I'm a huge American history person. So like I kind of champion what happened after Nixon brought everyone back from Vietnam and we got the Pentagon Papers. I feel like until we get like another version of the Pentagon Papers revealing around aliens, that's when we're just gonna learn a whole bunch of fuck shit, and I'm here for it. I'm like waiting for that day where we get where we get the Pentagon Papers sequel. That's what I'm gonna call it. Call it a sequel.
Okay. Do you believe in ghosts?
Whoa. No.
No?
Nah.
No? No, not at all. Okay. I can say okay.
What other questions you got for me?
No, that was it. I usually end it with that. Because usually I get a good.
What kind of music do you like, Robbie?
Everything. What do you like? Everything that's like everything from like 2007 and back. I like.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm like 2013 and back.
Really?
I think like I did a study, right? I'm like, wait. I was like, so music when I started growing up was great. And then when did it go to hell where we just started talking about like drugs, sex, and guns? That's it. Nothing else.
1963.
Nice. But 2013 was the right answer.
No,
2013 was the right answer. The year of Miley Cyrus on the Wrecking Ball is really...
All right, here's the thing. Okay. What songs played at your funeral?
Life is a Bitch by Nas.
Oh, shit, bro. You throw some Nas out there, man? The fuck you know about Nas, man? I was there. I pre-ordered Nostradamus, goddammit. I was there.
No, but it's funny. It's funny because I grew up on the Carter albums, so Lil Wayne is my favorite of all time. But
okay,
I have a soft spot for Nas because he speaks on some real shit in his album. Here's like the funny thing about artists.
Nas is one of the great. Who are the 5 greatest rappers of all time?
Huh?
Nas,
Jay-Z, Lil Wayne. Nas. That's probably my top 3, undoubtedly. But you know, that's us. The thing is, like when writers keep doing stuff today, it's like they're more of it's more of a brand, right? They're more of a, and it's like less about like the substance. What I liked about like Kanye now is like Donda. I don't care what you guys say. Donda was a pure fucking brand. It had nothing to it. There was nothing to Donda. Carter 3 was less good. Get the fuck out of here. But anyway, but
here's the question we got from Brandon. Now is the time for audience questions. How much longer do we go? It's up to y'all. Throw questions out there. Brandon says, let's keep the faded glory going. What's one recreational substance you will never use again?
I haven't really used any recreational substances like anything like that bad. I think the most like I'm pretty innocent when it comes like I've smoked weed. Like I've done weed, taken Percocet, but other than
you don't have to. Don't feel pressured to say anything you don't want to say.
But it's like I haven't really dabbled. I haven't really done anything like that, you know, because I've kind of a thing. I have a thing like I got backstory stuff.
I'll tell you.
I've seen a lot, and it's like I don't want to suffer from it.
I'll tell people this.
Verdi, you missed the show, bro.
I'll tell people this. I won't ever snort a Vicodin again. I learned my lesson that first time. Missing Link says shrooms. Kidding. Really? Really? Cerebros, how many you digs do you give it? I want to know. I'm going to watch it this weekend. Let me know. Just don't tell me anything. Just how many?
I haven't done any good jokes. See, that's the thing is I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot happen, you know, from family, from friends, kind of that's why like even when I do stuff, like even when I drink, even when I smoke, it's so, it's rewarding. Like I don't do it every day. Like I probably smoke like probably once every 2 weeks, or I probably drink like only on Sundays.
Yeah, me too.
You know, I don't want to rely on it. Like I've seen so many people either my age or older that I'm close to, because you're not productive that way. And I always kind of, it's fun and everything, but it just takes your day away, you know?
Yeah.
Coffee is
you're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong about that.
So it's better when it's like a reward and it's like in pace, you know?
Hell yeah, man. We're still waiting on questions from the chat.
But yeah, back to the, what was it? Yeah, Dawn was a complete brand. Okay, what I want to say, like at least when Nas did his album this year, it still maintained the same vibes as when he first started.
Cerebro says,
Berno, ask me a question.
Still processing, man. 3 you digs on the first reaction.
You're an old soul and relate to people older than yourself. Been there, bro. We accept you. Thank you, man. I love you. 62, I love 62 because he used to give me such a hard time. Now we love me. Oh.
Yeah, you are one of us. Join us. Comics Misexplained. Jason says, I once went to Bonnaroo and drank a bunch of wild turkey, smoked weed, smoked opium, ate shrooms, did 2 hits of acid, and took ecstasy in a span of 2 hours, and then saw the Flaming Lips. I bet that was
an experience.
Wild, bro. Were they in costume? Were they in the phase when like at Bonnaroo? I'm assuming we're in the phase where they're like wearing fucking furry costumes and shit. Bro.
I like Bobby's question. I always like meat on my pizzas. Like I'm weird. Like I'll do like a steak and cheese pizza, which I love. I'll do like a capicola and salami pizza, which I love. Pepperoni, mushrooms is probably my favorite combo. Pineapples belong on pizza. Anchovies belong on pizza. What doesn't belong is like peppers. I don't do peppers on my pizza. I hate it. Hate peppers.
Okay. I'm not a fan of pineapple. So there you go. Dismay Comics. What's up, bruh? Says, if you could see any comic be adapted as a movie and it actually have competent creators, what comic would it be?
Obviously Uncanny X-Men, because they failed so many times and I want them to do it right. That, and I would like to see Fantastic Four, like Stanley, like if they could start from like do the whole build up to Galactus, the whole Inhumans origin, because that also like crossover in Thor 150 and 151. I would be here for it. I'd like to see Strange Tales adapted, which I think is basically happening at this point. But
Strange Tales, what do you mean?
What was the first?
Like the Human Torch stuff, or the old school stuff, or the Doctor Strange stuff? Or
the Doctor Strange. So starting at like 113, 114, and then all the way until when Warlock and Gamora started, and like Warlock and Pip were 178, and then everything else like 179, 180, 181, going into like the whole Warlock shit. So
Jacob wants to know, how would you keep the younger generation interested in the hobby?
I would just say get be energized about what you like, you know. I would say like stick to your guns. If you're not in it for the speculation, don't go in for the speculation, because that's what people are about. Stick to what makes you happy and what keeps you excited, and find those people that maintain that same energy, right? And just be positive to someone. If someone wants to speculate, someone like isn't into toys, right? But you're into comics, be happy for them.
Well, maybe what Jacob's saying is how do you?
Oh, how would I
as a company?
As a company, I would bring back the Young Justice. I would bring back like books like Young Justice. I would make Teen Titans a headliner, Champions a headliner. I would start doing things with some of your characters.
How do you make that a headliner?
I would put more exciting creative teams on there.
Exactly.
That's what I would do.
Right? That's how you make a lesser title.
I wouldn't give them 10 issues like they just did with Champions. I wouldn't give Riri Williams 12 issues, you know. Miles is going on and on, but no one's really buzzing about it because Saladin Ahmed is a great writer, but it doesn't have the same hype as like obviously like Bendis or if Zdarsky did a Miles Morales book, it would be the bestseller.
Gotcha. Eric wants to know, is Chicago style pizza still a pizza?
Yes. Sometimes.
Okay. Who's the cutie? Or is they talking about you? It's Brandon. Jacob says, I'm 25 years old and only have 4 other people interested in what we do.
I mean, I'm 20, so I'm almost there with you.
Nice. Ninja Turtles, Street Sharks, Biker Mice from Mars, who wins in a street fight? Are you familiar with those properties?
Nope.
No. I would say Street Sharks. That's just me, though. But the Turtles have some training. But Street Sharks, man, it's tough. It's tough to go against those. How do you feel? Jordan wants to know, how do you feel about the Funko craze?
I mean, they're cool. Not my thing. They're expensive. I bought a few Funkos. Like, I bought 5 Funkos at once. I was like, I'm not doing this again. Weird.
We're opening Gunslinger Spawn Sunday night. Some Street Sharks votes, and then we got Battletoads wins.
Someone asked a question, if you could interview anyone, who would it be? Probably Frank Miller or Chris Claremont.
I've done 2 panels with Chris Claremont. He's a super cool dude. I bet if you reached out to him, he'd totally do it.
I have his email. He hasn't responded yet, but you know, I've reached out to one person who I really, really, really want to interview, and I heard back. I can't really talk about it yet, but I hope everyone's enjoying Titans. But
like Teen Titans Academy?
No, Titans, like the team.
Like the TV show?
Like the team. I hope everyone enjoys them. But
shit, guys, he's got Dick Grayson coming on.
Yeah. Best ass I'm ever gonna interview.
The one interview I would like, that's almost seems impossible to me, would be Grant Morrison. I would love to talk to Grant Morrison. I don't even need it to be aired on stream. I just want to like hang out with him. Or with them. With him. I don't think he gives a shit, actually. But I would love to hang out with Grant. Like, I would love to hang out with Grant. Grant is the most amazing mind in my fictional
universe,
devouring world. Like, I love Grant Morrison's work, like, honestly. And all I'll say is, like, Grant said, they, them, he, she, I don't care. Like, that's the point. Grant doesn't care, because that Grant was, and all Grant was saying when they came out as non-binary was like, well, there wasn't language to what it was in the 90s. And if you read Invisibles, for instance, which is the book that changed my life, it's literally scripture to me, Brandon. So Grant decided that if a character was going to do something in this book, Grant was going to do it, right? And vice versa, right? And so Grant put themselves into the book, right? And Grant devised this thing like the hyper sigil. Just you should definitely check out some Grant Morrison lectures and just talks and stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited.
You know, first of all, Grant's a chaos magician. That directly influenced me. I guess you could consider me to be a chaos magician.
I'd like to interview Hickman. That'd be cool.
Hickman would be a cool interview, but I feel like it would be difficult.
I feel like I feel like he just say stuff, and you would just now realize 3 years later, oh, that's what he
I
meant.
just feel like Jonathan wouldn't be into it. And I also feel like Grant wouldn't know. Like if we were doing this, like Grant would be like,
I gotta go.
what button did I put? Right. What? Like I heard like that when Grant was interviewed by Jonathan Hickman, that it was like a technical malfunction for a second there.
Someone said, what did you watch? Let There Be Carnage. I think that's the worst freaking name they could have named that movie. The fact that they named it Let There Be Carnage actually just made me hate that movie all the more. So many better titles.
To answer Slots real quick, we haven't had too much of a problem with damaged books so far for 2 weeks in, but we have had a problem reporting damages. This is a little bit more of a extreme process, I'll tell you that.
Let There Be Carnage, or no, Absolute Carnage, Maximum Carnage.
Maximum Carnage is a better name, but Maximum Carnage entails the idea of what the story represents, which is a big team up on the hero side and a big team up on the villain side. And I remember I read Maximum Carnage when it was first coming out. I fucking ate it up. It was around the same time Reign of Superman was going on. And every week there was a new chapter, right? And I was revisiting it like a year or two ago and realized that like, this is dark. He's like, Carnage kills hundreds of people in that fucking book.
Yeah.
Man. Crazy.
I don't know. A lot of different titles that could have been in that.
You know what would have been a great title for it, honestly? Venom.
The Protector.
Venom, Carnage.
Yeah, Venom vs. Carnage or Venom.
No,
Carnage.
just Venom, Carnage.
Right.
I haven't seen it though. Have you?
Yeah.
Did you not like it? Are you a Venom fan?
I'm a Venom fan. I'm not a fan of the movies. I think that because they suffer from that rated R, like, or the PG-13 thing, they have to rely more so on humor. And Venom is a character that hasn't really had a lot of plot rather than a lot of just pure action. And in a Venom movie, you know, they, especially in like a Carnage movie, there wasn't you're not expecting a whole lot of plot, but there was really nothing there. It was just humor because we can't use a symbiote the way we actually can, like the way it's meant to be.
It's true, Joram. It's true.
Yeah, it was fine. It was funny. Like I laughed my ass off, but as a movie, I was like, there's a lot of issues with it. What's my favorite story from the 2000s era? Probably Ultimate Spider-Man.
Where are you seeing these? There they are. Yeah. Like, where are these comments? What's going on, bro?
Probably Ultimate Spider-Man, Invincible. It's great. I wouldn't say it was 2013, but yeah, probably that. I'd have to go with
2000s era. So it's like the oddies. Oh, the beginning of Morrison's Batman run.
JLA was in the 90s, and I loved that run.
JLA was in the 90s, so Authority was at the tail end there.
Yeah. Terror of the Babel was
Millar's Ultimates, the first 2 volumes of the Ultimates. Really good, solid stuff.
Yes, the Ultimates, yes. Yeah, Link recommended that to me, and I read it on Marvel Unlimited. I got a great experience. I didn't like how Mark Millar wrote the Hulk for some reason. Other than that, I thought it was a great story. It was weird. It was so
what I liked about it is like Hulk should be horror to me, right? Like Hulk should be a horror comic, and I feel like Kirby and Lee kind of came about it that way at first. And Hulk, it was always hard to place Hulk as a superhero.
Yeah, right? Peter David did a great job with it,
but he had to take 12 years to fucking really do it,
right? And then I feel like Greg Pak was fine. It was
but that's not a superhero book, right?
Yeah,
like that's a gladiator book.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say that's more of a kind of a Viking Hulk thing.
Yeah, exactly. So like, Bruce Jones did a run on Hulk that I thought was amazing because it leaned into that horror aspect.
Right.
That's why I think the Al Ewing, Joe Bennett, Immortal Hulk has worked. Hulk should be a horror book. It's not superhero. Right. Just like I don't think Fantastic Four is not a superhero book. You don't want to see the Fantastic Four out there stopping bank robberies and shit. No. You know, you want to see them going on adventures and exploring shit. You know, there's a little bit of a difference. It's superhero because they wear costumes and they have powers and they have ridiculous names.
But they do what the normal, like the stereotypical, like the tropey superhero wouldn't do.
But it's more like adventure superhero.
Yeah.
Adventure sci-fi superhero.
Right.
Hulk should be superhero horror. You know what I'm saying? Like, it should. And I think that I don't think Donny Cates is going to take it that way. The Donny Cates knows how to write horror. He can.
Oh, God Country's great. Oh, I just read Murder Falcon the other day. I finished that up.
Daniel Warren Johnson. That's a fantastic book, bro.
I loved it.
What'd you think about it? Out of 5 you digs, what do you give it?
I give it like a 4.98 you digs. Like, I loved it.
You can only go by 0.5s.
Okay, fine.
That's fine.
I'll give it. Then
we'll
bump it up
allow
to
4.69 though.
We allow 4.69. Okay, we're always about the 69, you know. But I loved it. Like, that in God Country to me is like just understanding the personal attachment to the creators. Really drives it. Have I read Buzzkill? No, I have not read that yet.
You should read that next for your Donny Cates journey.
Yep. But what was the question up there? What book do I think is the most overrated? Probably I would probably say Scott Snyder's Batman. I would be very honest and say I think
overrated.
I think it's overrated because after you get past Court of Owls and Death of the Family and City of the Owls, to me there was, like I said earlier, there's not a whole lot left to it.
All right, here's where we're going to end it tonight, Brandon.
Art.
Here's how we're going to end it tonight. I want to know. Right now, I need you, bruh, okay? I brought you on here because I need you right now, Brandon. Okay. I need you to tell me why I should give a fuck about X-Men in 2022.
So, why you should give a flippin' 2 dicks and a half about X-Men right now is because, honestly, and if you are an X-Men fan, this is a very exciting part in X-Men history, because for so long, even in the Claremont run, every iteration of the X-Men, they are looked at in a way that's so negatively spoken. There's a lot of stuff that is thank you, that it's like the whole world has against these group of people because they're different. X-Men has always been about kind of bringing new things in society. X-Men has always been that one book that's been ahead of society for years. And this is the first time in history, X-Men history, right, where they're all in the same place. And you don't have to worry about, okay, who's missing, right? Who's missing? You have I understand you have a bunch of different titles. If you don't like a certain character or a certain title, if they hit different genres that appeal to different readers, right? Now, if you look at how do you get into comics? You just dive in dollar bins, right? Right? The X-Men, you don't really, after you read House and Powers of X, which I would say, which is a great story. It's probably one of the better told narratives in the past few years of comic books. Just blew that right in my face, Robbie. How dare you?
Sorry, bruh.
Yeah, so it's great to see what comes after and how they're developing this new world. And this is kind of what I was saying earlier about people are so impatient. This is a new world that's not even 5 years old yet. Of course, creative teams want to tell their stories of characters that now have a new voice in it. They have a new environment. There obviously are going to be endless more stories. And that's what you want in characters, right? It'd be like, what happens when Batman is in Gotham for 80 years, right? He's been around for like 80 years now, right? You're going to get bored. That's why we have like what Tom Taylor, that Elseworlds story. It's fun because you see him out of his element. The X-Men are in a new element that's on their own section and they're not hated anymore. They're not like, they're standing up for themselves. They're together. So, and Hickman, even though he's leaving, he said he'll come back. The jury's still out on that one, in my opinion. I don't think we're going to know for like, let's say another year, but like the creative teams are having fun. Right. And that's
okay, but what do you say? What do you say to someone who goes, like me, we were sold this idea of a story by Hickman with a beginning, middle, and an end, and now I'm not getting that. Why should I care anymore? Why is this not an opportunity for me to jump off?
I would say because if you look at a lot of X-Men runs, right, this story will last. This environment will last down the road to where you're going to want to be along for the journey, right? And it kind of goes on to what I said about patience. You were promised, and it hasn't been over yet. It hasn't been over, and I don't think you're going to know Hickman until it's over. If you're, we always talk about following
Brandon, it's over. It's over. Hickman's done. It's over.
After Inferno, but he's laid the groundwork for what's yet to come. And I know you said repeatedly yeah, it's not the captain has jumped overboard, but Hickman has really
when the head chef leaves, everybody else changes the recipes.
Yes, but the environment is still the same. They're still on Krakoa. You're still getting a lot of these new voices. You know, you're still, even if Hickman like doesn't come back, you still have Jerry Dugan, who's a fantastic writer, and he can do a lot of great things
so far
with that. And like I said about the other titles, you don't have to read all of them. You really don't have to, right? You were promised something, and I think Hickman can still deliver at the end of Inferno. You're not going to know that until after. So I still think the jury is still there. And I wouldn't say X-Men is rebooting, especially because Hickman has created this new kind of wave to where it's gonna last long. You know, just thinking about like X-Men 20 years from now, still on Krakoa, right? Or Raqqa, right? Just seeing that world.
20 years from now?
I don't like 10, 20 years, right? 10 years. Let's say 10 years.
Really?
Whatever, 10 years. I'm just thinking like longer term, people are gonna go back and revisit some of these issues of when they were kind of exploring this world and kind of learning about themselves in this new environment. You're also getting characters that haven't been touched in a very, very long time. Look at Fabian Cortez. He's getting love, getting some hate. You're getting a good Mystique story, right? You're getting a lot of these characters have very underlying stories that if you're a fan of those characters, it does you justice. You want to see that character spotlighted more. So I would care more about the characters on Krakoa than the overall vision. If you don't care about some of your characters on this world, then I can't help you there. But if you don't care about the vision, yeah, and people don't have 10 years because, well, I'm not saying like you have to wait 10, 20 years, but I'm saying like this Krakoa, this environment is still going to be around to stay.
Okay.
Right? You're not going to change that setting. So you're going to.
Okay, I'm just going to keep. I mean, you know, when they relaunch a new title, I'll check out the 10 Lives and Deaths of Wolverine. We'll see what happens. I'm still reading X-Men and Hellions, and that's it so far. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, I'm always going to try something out. If I don't dig it, I'll drop out. And sometimes if I hear good things later on, I'll drop back in. The final thing, what did you think of that candy?
The candy?
Candy's nuts fit in your mouth.
How big we talking? No, I don't know.
Now, people in the chat wanted me to get you into these nuts jokes. So now you've been fully indoctrinated into the slightly inner outer circle of the PCP army. So welcome, Brandon. We appreciate you joining us, man.
Always, brother. Thank you for having me on. This was a long time coming. I know we were kind of throwing shade at each other over on the Tomorrow Show, but it was like, now it's like a great time we can just.
Well, you piss me off sometimes, Brandon, because you're like, you remind me of how I would have been a little bit when I was your age. Yeah, I was very opinionated and I wasn't very much as informed as I thought I was. So you kind of get on my nerves, but I'll be honest with you, that's over. Like, it's a bit that you get on my nerves. You don't get on my nerves. That's a bit. But like, what I'm saying is, you remind me of someone. You remind me a little bit of me, but not too much. I don't want to give Mike too much credit, but what has happened tonight is that I've gotten to know you, Brandon, and I really appreciate you, and I love you, too, man. And you're part of the PCP family, and I love you.
Love you back, brother.
How is Candace? Have you seen Candace lately?
Wait,
getting smart. Just hold on before you respond, Brandon. Tell us everybody about your channel and what you got going on.
So what we have over on the channel, kind of talked about earlier, we have a few shows. On Monday, we have Weekly Wrap Up, which is me and Hillbilly Comics, that guy who just asked about Candace. That's the show where we review comics, we break them down, we recap them, we sometimes bring on creators to do like a 15-minute segment that we've had previously on the show, kind of like to plug their work. It's a lot of fun. It's a big community builder in that segment. And then on Wednesdays, part of the PCP Army Bad Batch, Missing Link, and I have Crisis on Infinite Rants, which is where we talk about a topic in the comic world, whether it's news, whether we're just having fun. We like to break down a lot of writers' work that are now big, looking back at their past projects. We like to recently we drafted a Justice League team, and that was a lot of fun. And then on Fridays, we have Archives, which is me, this guy Michael, who's For the Love of Comics, that's his Instagram, and Link is on, Bryce is on. That's really like the team right there. That's the team right there that we have. And that's a great show. That's where we break down books that are already completed, kind of do like a whole deep dive into it. And then we have Creators Corner, which is where I interview a lot of people. And that's been a blast. I've got to interview a lot of great people in the industry. So I love how I have such a strong support team with the channel. And like I was kind of talking about earlier, whenever I do these shows and when I was setting this up, it took a little bit of an adjustment period, but I think I've built a very solid crew and I'm so thankful for them, right? That we're going to be able I can positively say we are going to be here with the same shows 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, still doing the same stuff. So I'm very proud of what we're able to accomplish now in a short period of time. And I'm just super excited for how we can grow the community and how we can just grow our circle of just comic book readers, just comic book fans, talking about weekly books, talking about past books, right? When we talk to creative, we have fun. We talk about business, we have fun. And it is a lot of fun. I couldn't have done it without Link. I couldn't have done it without Bryce. I couldn't have done it without the PCP Army Bad Batch, Travis, Fable, Manny, Taki, Nick, Taki, Big Herb, and all of the backlog bros. What's a backlog bro? I don't know, but remains to be found out. But I love it, man. I love it, man.
Well, thank you for being here, Brandon. I really have appreciated tonight. It was nice to get one-on-one here on the channel. Just have a conversation about you, your experience, what you like, what you dig, and talking about comic books. And I really appreciate you, Brandon. Thank you for being here. And y'all, we're out. Thank you, chat, for joining us. And one more thing, don't ever forget that no matter where you are